Morning. I've been banned. I'm sorry to everybody who is a fan. I'm sorry to everybody who follows me. I seriously apologize. I have been banned and I have not been able to go live. Um, my channels keep the two, I have five channels. The two that are capable of going live right now keep getting banned, like completely shut down. And so I'm sorry about that. I would like to, I'd hope that it would stop. But apparently, there are people who just really do not like what I have to say, and it sucks that people want to silence people like me. And I'm not the only atheist channel this happens to. There's a bunch of atheists that get their entire account shut down. It's pretty tragic that TikTok allows people to mass report out of spite or anger or resentment. I'm here to have a conversation. I'm not here to spread hate or division or any of that. I'm here to have a genuine conversation about people's beliefs. So Kevin wanted to report me and just said so you're done. I'm going to start blocking people that are trying to report me because honestly, I'm not here to hurt anybody. I mean, it doesn't really matter how many viewers I get, how many shares or likes I get. TikTok doesn't care about any of that. I got banned this last time for misinformation. Like, that's just insane. But I am here today. I am live right now. There are 536 of you in this live currently. The number seems to be going down, unfortunately. If people want to have a conversation, you can send in a guest request and we will start having a conversation. You have to have the ability to go live, which means on your account you need a minimum of 1,000 followers to go live with me and we can have a conversation about beliefs. So we do have a guest request right away. Ash.
Hey, what's up?
How's it going?
Good. I think I was on your live last time.
Okay. What do you got on your mind today?
Um, no, I was actually just stopping in to say, hey, I didn't see anybody else in the guest request. Um, I'm back at work again, so
Oh, work is so much fun.
it really is. Um, so I do actually have one question for you. So, did you ever believe in any sort of religion before this?
Yeah, when I was a child, when I was a kid, all the way up until about the age of 14, I was a believer.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
actually convinced that being a believer would make me a better person.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems to be the consensus with most people that stray away. Um,
And I
I
decided to
remember.
read the Bible, and that changed. When I decided to
Right.
read the Bible,
Right.
I was able to recognize that it's not a book of moral standards that people should behave by.
Right. I mean, there's some things in it that I believe, you know, a lot of the Bible is obviously written by people who were in power at a time when it was written and thought, okay, I can use this to influence people the way that I want. So they put, different things in here, different things there, and now that's become a sense of, it's become a thing of moral standpoint for religion. You know what I mean?
Well, there's nothing in the Bible that I would say is inherently good that human beings aren't already capable of on their own. You're not going to learn anything from the Bible that's going to teach you to be a better person. By the time you're old enough to read that book, you've already got a pretty good standard of behavior in regards to how you treat other people.
Right. Right. I mean, like, I grew up, when you're, I don't know, it's a weird situation for me because you don't grow up inherently wanting to hurt people, you know.
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever met a single person that, you know, regardless of what their parents teach them, ever really want to grow up hurting people unless they really have their own, issues in their head that they've got to work through. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, so our personalities and how we deal with the world at large are dictated by three basic of three things: your genetics, which builds your
Right.
personality and your predisposition. And then
Right.
there's the like 4 to 14 window where you absorb the most about your environment, your world. That's how you develop your personality, is through your environment. And then any trauma that you deal with in life can fundamentally alter who you are,
Right.
whether it be physical, emotional, or whatever trauma. So if you're if you're raised in a family where like your parents are extremely racist,
Right.
well, that's how you're going to grow up. Now, you may be able, based on your genetics and predisposition, you may be able to rise above that later as an adult.
Yeah.
But I would say that it's rare that that happens. I think most people that are they're going to be a certain way because of how they're raised.
Well,
Um,
I mean, like I grew up down here. I live in Alabama. I grew up here in Alabama. My brother, he's 5 years older than me. He was very, very racist. Um, and I don't, sit back and deny any of that. At some point in my life, I might have done some things that I'm not very proud of with that. But I also, like you said, I grew up in a very racist family,
yeah,
and I had to unlearn a lot of things that I had learned.
right.
So yeah, you're right. It's that whole nature versus nurture debate. You know, are we what our nature is, or are we how we were nurtured?
Right.
So that's a big thing.
It's
That's one of
I
my
think it's definitely a combination of the both. It's the nature of your predisposition, and it's the nurture that you grew up in.
right,
I think that anybody who has the ability to critically examine the things they believe is going to go, they're going to step away from racism or misogyny or just in general religion. I mean, they may become more deistic, but they will definitely become less theistic.
right, right. I mean, it. I think the last time we talked, I told you about how like I grew up going to youth camps and everything, and
Mm,
they would sit there and manipulate us and make us believe these things, and
yeah.
um the whole fake gun and fake knife thing, and they would like,
Yeah, I do. I
yeah,
do remember you now. You were one of the young women. You are one of, I think, two or three young women I've had in this live that has, talked about your experience going to a religious camp where they will, violently wake you up at night, throw a sack over your head, take you in another room, and threaten your life with fake weapons and tell you that if you're a Christian, you're going to be put to death to test
right,
your faith. And that's not something that obviously we agreed should be happening to children. That's pretty disgusting behavior.
right. I mean, that's the whole, like, I'm okay with whatever everybody believes. Like, you can believe in God, you can believe in, Buddha, you can believe in anybody you want to, but when you become an extremist and take it too far to where you're manipulating and brainwashing children and that goes way too far. So
Yeah, I agree. This is one of the reasons I rally against religion, because by and large, it's just abusive.
right.
And it's even more tragic to understand that people don't recognize it. They don't see the abuse.
Yeah. I mean, it's because, this whole entire dynamic, especially in the Christian church, there's this, if you say something about this, nobody's gonna believe you. They kind of put it in your head that like nobody's gonna take your word over like a leader of the churches or you know an adult. So like these kids, they're going through it and everything, and then they get brainwashed and they get abused, and it kind of creates the cycle of, well, I didn't say anything while I was growing up, so now I can't say anything now. Nobody's gonna believe me now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
But we've got to do better to educate ourselves. We've got to do better to educate our kids, because we're about to get up against it. We're about to hit the wall.
right,
Um, Evangelicals, I think, only make up about 27% of the U.S. population, but they're the loudest voice in the room right now. They are pushing through laws that are just truly horrifying. They separate LGBTQ people from everybody else, like DeSantis in Florida, and Texas is doing it, and Oklahoma's doing it.
right,
Evangelicals are going to bury this country. They're going to set us back like fucking 150 years from a
right,
social perspective. And people need to stand against that idea. I mean, it's fine if you want to have a religious belief. That's totally okay. I can't stop people from believing things, but it needs to be separate from it needs to be a personal journey, and it needs to be separate from our politics. You
right,
cannot force other people to live by your religion. That's just not even remotely respectful, and it's the antithesis of a free democracy, a free nation.
right. Well, when you get to this whole point of, you know, wanting to push these laws and these things like this, like with the whole, I don't know if you've heard of Kay Ivey. She's
Sorry,
the
say
governor of
again.
Alabama. She's the Kay Ivey. She's the governor of
Hmm.
Alabama.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot that she has, you know, hold on, I just got a message. Oh, never mind. Sorry. Um, but Kay Ivey has pushed a lot of religious things in the government from her standpoint as being governor, and that's created a lot of tension here between the you know religious people and the non-religious people in Alabama.
Yeah.
So, also, I have another question. Have you heard about the pastor in Tennessee talking about the witches in his church?
Yes, Pastor Greg Locke.
Okay, what do you
I
think
have,
about that? I want to hear your
as,
standpoint on that.
as a member of the atheist community who follows the news in regards to religion very closely, I've known about Greg Locke for a couple of years. He's been
Right,
around for a hot minute. Um,
right,
I think it was like a year ago or so. There's a constitutional lawyer by the name of Andrew Seidel wrote a book called The Founding Myth, where he actually dispels all the nonsense ideas that the U.S. is a Christian nation.
mm-hmm,
He sent that book to Greg Locke because Greg Locke is very much one of those "this is a Christian nation" type people. And Greg
well,
Locke didn't even read it. He went on social media and made a video almost immediately burning that book in his driveway.
mm,
And so
okay,
Greg Locke has been on the atheist radar for quite a while now. And he's exactly what I expect from the Christian religion. Now, there are nominal Christians, people who claim to be Christian because they were born into a Christian family. They go to church maybe on holidays or once in a while, but they're not standing up against Greg Locke.
Right.
They're not, Christians aren't saying anything about Greg Locke. There's one pastor here on TikTok that stands against him, but that's all I've seen out of the
Because
out of Christians.
a lot of these pastors are going to keep their mouth shut because they know if they go against somebody of their own side, quote unquote side, then it's going to look bad for everybody, and
Yeah.
then they're gonna, you know what I mean? It's kind of
Well, that's the thing with Christianity. Instead of owning up to the mistakes that it makes, it just tries to obfuscate or ignore them. It sweeps all their mistakes under the rug. They never admit when they're
right,
wrong. Because like there's this undertone that if Christians admit that they're wrong about something, that this somehow diminishes everything that's saying they're right. I mean, it does. If you're a member of a church that's hiding sexual assault from or sexual assault victims and hiding,
right,
if you're a part of a church that's doing that, then yeah, you're kind of the problem. But with Greg Locke, he's going way too far with it. I mean, the witches thing, that was pretty messed up. But the most jacked up thing I think I've seen him do is he had a book burning a few weeks ago where him and his congregation got together and they burned things like Ouija boards, books, uh, memorabilia from things like Harry Potter and other things.
right.
Um, he is he may be the extremist version of the Christian religion, but right now he is one of the leading voices in the community. And regular Christians are not trying to stand against that guy.
And
Not at all.
that's what needs to happen, is somebody needs to stand against him, because
Yeah,
like
if there's
right now,
Christians out there, if there's Christians out there who believe in the separation of church and state, they need to stand up and say, you know, enough is enough. These evangelicals do not speak for our religion, and we need to stand against this totalitarianism.
right. Another thing, like, I know he's in a position of power right now. So I
Yes.
have this theory that those so-called witches in his church aren't even that. I believe he's making this up
Oh, he absolutely 100% is making it up. That
just
was
to
just,
go after somebody that doesn't,
yeah,
agree with him
no
about.
witch that I've ever met would be within 100 miles of Greg Locke,
Oh no.
much less attend his church.
Right. Well, when I first saw the video, I was thinking, okay, maybe he's going after kids, and that's what really like set the alarms off in my head was, because I know there's a lot of kids that, they're growing up in the church and everything. They'll dabble in this and dabble in that because, it is what it is. As a kid, you're curious, you want to learn, so
Yep.
you go,
Kids are curious.
right. So my main concern was, oh my God, maybe he's going after kids, and this is dangerous. This is a guy in power who can influence a lot of people, and now you have people that are going to go after these people and try to harm them, or put them in a worse position that they're already in. They're already scared for their lives probably because you know dudes throwing shit at them and calling them out in the middle of church. You know what I mean?
Well, Greg Locke did that he's a very dishonest individual.
Right.
Um, he is once divorced because he was very abusive to his ex-wife.
Mm.
Like she had kids and gained weight, and he was an absolute clown to her. Very abusive. Um, but he's a very dishonest individual. And
Right.
like I said, he's the loudest voice in the Christian room right now. All of those people are. I mean, we scroll through TikTok and we see it all the time. There's that one guy standing on stage talking about how somehow deconstruction became this sexy thing trend to do.
And
People
it's
who deconstruct from religion, they're not doing it because it's a fucking trend. They're
right.
doing it because they recognize the damage, the emotional harm and social harm that's been done to them by this religion, by this belief.
Right.
And it's a problem that we need to address as a nation. I mean, if we allow the United States to fall into a Christian theocracy, take somebody like Greg Locke and give him access to thermonuclear weapons and find out what happens.
Oh yeah, we'd all be fucked. And see, and that's the funny thing because, like in my field, I work in EMS. I think I told you that before. Um,
Hmm.
Usually when we get on scene and the patient's lying there, if you have family members in the room, the loudest one, say the family member calls 911 is like, "Hey, my family member isn't doing so well." It's usually a caretaker or somebody that takes care of this patient. Usually, they're usually bedbound. Um, and you get there and nothing's really wrong with the patient, so you're wondering why they call 911, and you get in there and you're asking the patient like, "Hey, what's wrong?" And a family member is talking loud, and they're so loud, they're trying to drown out the patient, and they're trying to get you to just take this person off your hands, just take them to the hospital. They need to go to the hospital. It's really funny because the loudest one in the room is usually only loud because they're wrong, they're corrupt, and they want what they want. you know they don't
Right.
want you to be able to think through and to see that what they're saying is wrong.
Yeah.
They
I
just
call
want
it
you
the
to just deal with what they have to say.
Yeah, I call it the Ben Shapiro tactics of argument.
Right.
When people debate Ben Shapiro, he doesn't give them room to speak. He will go off on a tangent rant that includes 5 different subjects all at once and completely confuse the conversation so that you can't respond and make you look dumb in the process. And so like that's that I'm like they're guilty about something, they know they're guilty about something, they know they're wrong about something. And so by confusing the situation as best they can basically get away with whatever.
Right. I mean, it's very frustrating. With like his position, he's being very loud right now, and he's being very outspoken, and he's in that position of power. So he's really trying to.
Well, we need regular people, either atheists or secular Christians, to stand up and start calling these people out for their behavior.
Right.
The more we ignore it, the worse it's going to get.
Yep. And that's really honestly true. And I kind of wonder, say we were to go to a theo, theocratic, am I saying that right? Theocratic, a
Yep.
theocratic nation, and the U.S. was to turn into that. With everything going on right now, say the whole war in, let's just use the war in Russia and Ukraine right now. I wonder what standpoint a theo a theocracy would have on that, especially a Christian
If,
theocracy.
if, if I had to make predictions, one of the things that we deal with quite often with religion is cults, and how
Right.
cults behave are very inclusive, they're exclusive. So like
They seclude
they
themselves.
cut off, like if you end up in a cult, what's going to happen is they're going to cut off all of your contact with your friends, your family members. They're going to try to control every aspect of your life. So the way I see this is at a larger scale. If the United States was to ever become a Christian theocracy, they would cut us off from the world.
Right.
They would basically do to the American citizens what North Korea has done to its citizens. It cut them off from the world. You wouldn't have internet access unless it was what the state wanted you to see, which
And
would
that,
be again be based on the Christian theology. And then eventually, when we did start opening up to other countries, there would be very stringent rules about it. And I mean, any of those rules violated would absolutely lead to war.
yep.
Christians are more than happy to kill other people in the name of their religion, and that's just a historical fact.
Yeah, that's been proven time and time again.
Time and
And
time again, there's never been a time in human history that involved Christianity where Christians were not killing somebody.
there's a reason why I asked that, was specifically for, us to get to that conclusion, because like what you just said, they would seclude, and they would break themselves off from another, like here in Alabama. I'm not
Well,
specifying
and
where
instead of seeing states, instead of seeing individual states in the United States, what you would see is a redistribution of land. So Catholics would get a chunk of the country, Baptists would get a chunk of the country. Like that's how it break down. The United States would break down into larger land provinces, and each of those provinces would end up being some denomination of Christianity, and they would have borders. those areas would have borders, and there would be infighting amongst Christians in the United States as to who has the correct interpretation of the Bible, who's
Right.
definitely, more divinely inspired than anybody else. Like it would actually be just complete and utter chaos.
Right.
The number of people who would be hung or tortured to death would be off the chain.
Well, I mean, look at the whole entire Puritan, like when, that was a whole big thing. Back to the Salem witch trials,
Yep.
where was
And
that
it's
fueled
exactly
by?
what you would see. You would see
What was that
people
fueled
who
by?
are like, you would see people who are mentally ill being put to death, 100%.
Right.
If not put to death, then depending on the denomination of Christianity, they would be exorcised, which could potentially lead to damage or death, harm or death.
And
It's an issue.
hold on, what are they saying? What I was getting at with that is the fact that, those were fueled by Christian beliefs and people in power in those times that would take those beliefs and twist them into something that wasn't necessarily
Just absolute control.
right, right. I mean, I think you
It
get what
would
I'm
be it would become illegal in the United States to be any other religion other than Christian. Like that would become illegal, and there'd be either mass deportations or there'd be a lot of death penalties for believing in different gods.
saying. Right. Which I mean, and that's with a lot of religions. It's that way. That's why I have such an issue with like one just one religion in general. It's a lot of religions that will sit there and if they could have it their way, nobody would be you know Buddhist or would be Christian or would be you know what I mean, an atheist. It's
Right.
kind of
Like the Christians in the country would redefine the freedom of religion to mean freedom to be Christian, and that's it. They would redefine all of our laws that would benefit their specific religion. They're already trying to do it now.
yep, just like
There's already groups of people out there claiming that the freedom of religion only means that you have the freedom to be Christian, and that's it.
yeah, that's not true at all. That's
No,
that's all right. Well,
I
I got to get
appreciate you
back.
coming in.
Thank you. I hope you do. When's your next dialysis day? How are you doing on dialysis?
Tomorrow morning.
Okay. Well,
I
good luck
guess
with that.
I just got off dialysis this morning, and so this is going to be kind of a short live. But yeah, I have dialysis again tomorrow.
All right. Well, good luck with that. See y'all later.
Have a good one. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, so we're gonna step into the next guest request here.
Nice to meet you. I'm Ben. I just want to bring up some stuff. I don't necessarily disagree with anything you've said so far. I somewhat disagree with the details of your analysis on a hypothetical theocracy, but that's more relevant. What I more want to talk about is some actual policy suggestions for what we can do to sort of combat toxic religious indoctrination. So
Well, we could start by just rebuilding the wall of separation in church and state. We could recognize that people can have their beliefs, but they are not allowed to push those into law.
I think that's a good start. What I think, I have a rather controversial stance, and that is that I think children should not be allowed in places of worship, uh, which
Oh, I'm gonna
is
agree.
yeah, I'm only aware of one country where that
I don't think
is.
children should be indoctrinated using fear tactics and emotional manipulation.
Absolutely, I'm so glad you agree because I know so many people that think that's an overreach of the state, and that freedom of religion means freedom as well to indoctrinate children, which I personally
I
find.
wholeheartedly disagree with that. There's just no way
Exactly.
that's appropriate.
And there are really only two countries that I'm aware of that have anything similar to that. Uh, China has some laws restricting it, but really the only country that is entirely restrictive of that is Tajikistan, uh, which I recently discovered. I was looking into the laws there, and it is entirely illegal. The specific law states that unless the child shows significant enthusiasm, they cannot be brought into a place of worship.
Yeah, I mean,
Which I think is something
there's always going to
that
be
should be
some
looked at.
level of it, though. I mean, children are like attached at the hip to their parents, right? Um, and so whatever their parents are doing, you have daddy's girl and mama's boy. Whatever the parents are doing, the children are likely going to follow to some degree, and I mean, I guess I understand that, and that's fine. But this Jesus camp stuff, that's got to end.
Oh, absolutely. And I
Waking
don't even
children up in the middle of the
necessarily.
night, waking children up in the middle of the night, throwing bags over their heads, and taking them into separate rooms and threatening them with fake weapons if they don't give up their Jesus is horrifyingly tragic.
Absolutely. It's disgusting, frankly.
It
Uh,
is,
yeah,
and it tells you everything you need to know about the religion. They have to force their faith. They have to use fear to get people to believe the things that they believe. They can't do
absolutely.
it by any other rational means.
And frankly, I think it's rather sad because I believe if they didn't force their means, I do think there would be a certain portion of the population that found Christianity on their own. Yeah, so for some background,
Yeah,
I
people are
am
always looking for things to have hope in, honestly. And I don't
exactly.
I don't want
I
to take
myself.
people I don't want to take away people's hope. If that's what they want to believe, that's fine. But they've got to recognize that not everybody's going to be convinced by this, and not everybody should be forced to.
Absolutely. So I myself am religious. I was raised in a Protestant family. Then around the age of 12, I sort of wasn't convinced by any of the supposed evidence that Christianity was presenting, and I turned to I considered myself an atheist till around the age of 15 when I started feeling a deeper connection to what I felt was a consciousness in the universe. And I won't bore you with it, but today I consider myself a Gallic pagan. I pray to a selection of gods. Uh,
If you need to get through the day, I'm not going to judge you for it. Just don't let it influence your behavior.
Absolutely, exactly. The only things I really let it influence is that I believe I'm taught to respect others and respect myself. That's the only real way
There
that I
you
let
go.
my religion influence
And as far as
my life outside of prayer.
as far as my assessment goes for the behavior of Christians, if the United States was to become a theocracy, that assessment is based on Christian history.
Hmm. Yeah.
That assessment is 100% based on the history of the Christian church all the way back to first century, where there was different sects of Christianity. One of them was actually almost entirely female, and they celebrated the goddess Asherah, who was God's wife. Um, and that entire sect of Christianity was put to death by the church, tortured and burned at the stake as heretics. So when I say that this is how Christians would behave in a world where America becomes a Christian theocracy, I'm not making that up. They will make it illegal to believe in other gods. And if they don't deport those people, they will absolutely torture and kill them. The only reason Christians aren't out in the street right now hunting gay people is because we have a rule of law, because we have a constitution. Go to any other country that's hyper religious, and they absolutely put gay people to death. And it doesn't matter if
Hey,
it's Christian or Muslim. It doesn't matter.
I don't need to go to another country. I don't live in the United States. I live in Latvia, and I constantly see things in the news. The only reason it's not worse really is because we want to appease Germany so we can stay in the EU. Uh,
Right.
we have tons of anti-gay violence and religious anti-gay violence here, and anti-Muslim violence
Yeah.
here in
And that's
Latvia.
like the thing is, the only way you can stop religious zealots from trying to destroy other people's lives is with some type of law, some type of rule. Without those rules, those governments that are technically supposed to be secular, without those rules and laws of government, religious people will absolutely murder other people in the name of their religion. It's a historical fact. So my assessment of what America would turn into under the idea of a Christian nation or a theocracy is exactly what history tells me it would be.
I would agree
Women
there.
would be almost
The only thing,
women
the
would
only
be
thing I
stripped of
disagree
almost
with.
all of their rights. They wouldn't have the right to own property anymore. They would definitely not have the right to vote on anything if there was even voting left. I don't know that there would be. I think voting would go right out the window if Christians took over the United States. It would be a complete totalitarian state.
I agree to a large extent. The only thing that I disagree with your analysis is your statement that the U.S. would split into different provinces based off of denomination. I think
What?
what's more likely is that whatever you might get some separatist movements in places that are, I guess, majority Mormon or majority
Right,
Catholic.
but
Those very specific areas, I
those
think.
separatist movements are going to end up having borders.
Absolutely, but I think they would form entirely separate nations, and in the rest of the country, one sect would prevail and enforce its doctrine.
I think eventually, yes, like that would be like the end goal, right? Like if the Christians didn't cause a mass extinction in the process.
Yeah,
But I mean, yeah, that would probably be the end goal. There would only be one religion allowed. I mean, that would be the end goal for any Christian denomination.
yeah. And I also somewhat disagree that they would make the U.S. isolationist. I think the
Initially,
United
that wouldn't be
States
like a
and
permanent forever thing. That would just be an initial thing. I couldn't
how
tell you
long?
how many years that would
Oh,
last,
okay.
but it would be a very temporary thing, like maybe somewhere between 20 and 50 years. And
I
then
imagine
they'd reopen borders to other countries.
I imagine it would only take as long as necessary to form a stable
Yep,
government in the region,
exactly.
and
And then as soon as they
immediately
had a
after that.
stable type of government, which would include those separate states based on denomination, um,
Yeah,
which it would stay that way for a while. I imagine I couldn't begin to tell you how long that would last. But eventually the end goal would be one Christian nation, one denomination of Christianity. I mean, eventually that would be, and then over time again, you'd see a reversion. It would go back to there being tribes of people who have different beliefs, and you would see freedom fighters. You'd see basically in this country what you see in a lot of other countries.
yeah. It's a scary thing to think about.
It's tragic. It's just terribly tragic too, because for the longest time right now, America's been the world leader because we had an educational standard at one point and we no longer do. Now, the powers that be have confused education so to the extent that we have charter schools, religious schools, homeschooling, all this goofy shit. And instead of wasting money on these other things, we should have one standard, one educational standard across the board for every kid in this country, regardless of whether or not you grow up in like an impoverished area. One of my biggest pet peeves with education is that schools are funded by property tax. So
Absolutely, that's
if you're growing up in a place where housing is dirt cheap and garbage, then you're going to have a dirt cheap garbage school. And that's not fair to children, not even a little bit. That's not giving them the same opportunity across the board. Whereas, like, if you have a school in a rich neighborhood, it's a well funded school. It's just, yeah, it's absolutely insane to me that people don't want their children educated to an extent that we would be able to innovate new things and keep our country ahead of the game. You know what I mean?
I definitely agree with that sentiment of education.
I think
It's something.
out of all the things that we debate at the political level, the single most important thing isn't the economy. It isn't immigration. It isn't none of the stuff that we argue about typically. Education is the number one most important thing that we should be focused on from a political perspective. Because if we raise an entire generation of kids who grow up to be adults who are undereducated and they're not innovating or inventing or trying to create, better things, then the country's just going to fall apart. Like every aspect, like the racism, the immigration, the economy, everything's going to fall apart.
Hmm. Certainly, and I think what we have to start discussing here is uh, a replacement of the way that we think of education. We sort of think of education as something that uh, has been fought for, something that has been uh, built by those before us, and something that we have to rely on our ancestors for. And I think it's
Well, the thing
frankly
with
a backwards way of looking at it. I think
the,
we have to
the
start
reason
looking at education
education
like a
the
we have to
reason
start looking at
education
education like a right more.
the reason education is so fucked in the United States is because the powers that be, the people who buy politicians, the people who dictate inflation and the economy, these very ultra rich, these 1% groups of people, Bezos doesn't want to see an educated population. Neither does Elon Musk.
Absolutely.
These people don't want an educated population. And the reason they don't is because they, one, don't want the competition. Two, they want a workforce that is ignorant and stupid, that doesn't know any better, which is how you end up with the Conservative Party at whole, at large. They vote against their own best interest at every possible turn. They don't want universal health care, even though it would be literally cheaper for them. They would be able to afford that tax versus having to buy private insurance that could reject their claim at any time. Under a universal plan, that can't your claims can't be rejected because you're paying a steady tax on it. Like, this is the thing, privatizing absolutely everything and making absolutely everything for profit is damaging to our society. It's hurting people. People are going bankrupt, they're dying because they won't go to the doctor, all kinds of stuff. Being anti-union, in a union, there are problems with certain unions. I'm never gonna stand 100% in favor of some of the things unions do. But by and large, when you work for a union, you get to negotiate your wages, your time off, your benefits, all of that shit. And so the ultra rich have literally made it so that everybody is arguing with everybody about everything. And the American public is so uneducated on it that they just let it happen. And
Absolutely.
religion is one of those tools they use. There's an old saying, I don't know where it comes from, but religion is the emperor's favorite toy. Because as soon as the leaders push that button and they fuck with people's beliefs, they light them up. That's why evangelicals exist in the first place.
I'm
The
so
Tea Party
glad
back during
that's
the Tea Party back during Bush Jr.'s administration. That's the current Republican Party. The Tea Party was evangelical, white, upper middle class people who started as a grassroots movement, and these people think everything is the fucking devil. Everything. And they hijacked the Republican Party, and that's the mess you're seeing right now. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Ted Cruz, Greg Abbott, who just made a call to Texas law enforcement agencies to find ways to arrest parents who are allowing gender confirmation for their children as child abuse.
We have similar laws here, and it's that same situation. We have a system where the people who run the economy, the people who own the economy, need to perpetuate that those
There
lacks
has
of
to be,
standard.
if they can sow enough confusion and enough division amongst the population, nothing gets fixed. There is no fixing the status quo. Nothing gets better.
And
And
frankly,
until
it's not just religion, it's many other things. It is race,
Yep.
it is class. These things exist
They,
to continually separate.
yeah, here in the
Uh,
U.S., they managed to
right.
redefine critical race theory, CRT. They redefined it to such an extent that people in this country literally believe that critical race theory is just teaching white kids that they're automatically guilty of racism. And that's not what critical race theory is. It's never been that. Critical race theory is a course you take at, it's a law course, and it studies the economic and legal impact that things like slavery, Jim Crow, segregation had on our United States. But it looks at the real world consequences that exist in our country as a result of those things. It has nothing to do with K through 12 education. Nothing. And when you ask a conservative, well, what is CRT? What is critical race theory? None of them can give you a straight answer because they don't know. It's purely an emotional response, fear and anger. And the
I've
powers that be
often
capitalize on those things. And religion feeds that. Religion feeds fear and anger.
I've often said that conservatism isn't really an ideology, insofar as every other ideology has a framework through which the world is viewed in order to arrive at positions. But the only framework of conservatism is the left is bad, and we need to oppose the left. That's not a
Yep.
framework of analysis, it's
That's
simply
all we get here in
an
the US.
opposition
That's
to
all we get
progress.
here in the US. The Republican Party doesn't have policies on immigration. They don't have real policies on education. They don't have real policy on job creation or economic policies. They don't have any of those. They've never, in the past, I don't know, since Bush Jr., the Republican Party has done absolutely nothing to benefit the American public. Instead, they just want to own the libs. That's their whole thing. That's all they care about.
Exactly. And it's why they seem to think when we get angry in debates, they seem to think that's their win, which I never quite understood personally. I feel
Yeah,
like if you are if you
I
are
get
angry
accused
about something,
I get
that just
accused
proves
quite
that
often in my comment section, and like in this comment section right now, I get accused quite often of just being an angry atheist, and that somehow diminishes my argument. It's an obfuscation. They're
absolutely.
they seem to think that me being angry is somehow deterring from my point. It doesn't. My anger is justified. I'm tired of seeing people suffer. I do not want to see suffering in this world. I want us to mature as a species and reduce the amount of suffering that we see in the world, however, whatever form that takes, within reason.
Absolutely. I'm so glad we can agree on that. I'm gonna go. I have some work to do, but thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure
You're very
talking to you.
welcome. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
All right. Before I get into the next guest request, up here above my head is my Venmo and my Cash App. I appreciate donations. My content is always going to remain free. I'm never going to put this behind a paywall. I'm never going to put in advertisements for my content. I'm not going to join the creator fund. I'm not doing any of that. This is entirely voluntary. If you like my content and you think it's worth a few dollars, please feel free to donate. If not, I understand. I get it. All right, here's our next guest request.
Doing?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
No, I'm great, man. I'm chilling. I hear you're on dialysis at the moment. Hope you get better
Thank
soon.
you.
Yeah, so I noticed a lot of your conversation was based around like the US and stuff like that. Obviously, judging by my accent, I'm British. Like I have no clue what's going on over there with the most part. I'm not really into politics like that. Um, I kind of just wanted to get your views, I guess, on religion in general, because I noticed, like I said again, your conversation was mostly based around Christianity, which I do know quite a bit about, but it's not like I guess my main specialty in terms of what I know.
As far
So I
as
kind of just wanted to,
how I
sorry, go on.
feel about religion in general, I have never seen a positive use for any religion,
Ever?
any of them, ever.
Okay, that's
How many
interesting.
more? How many more women need to have acid splashed in their face or be murdered in an honor killing? How many more gay people need to be pitched off the top of buildings or just outright executed? How
Oh dear.
much more ignorance does our species need to suffer through that causes pain, death, ignorance to a large degree? How much more of this do we have to suffer? We've been dealing with religion, at least the three Abrahamic ones, for the better part of the last 4,000 to 5,000 years. And in all of that time, it's never been a benefit to us. It's always ever tribalized us. It's always ever tortured, maimed, killed, inspired ignorance, hatred, division, war. There's never been a time in the history of any of those three major religions where we were at peace with each other. Never.
Never. Now, I completely understand what you're saying in terms of all the things you just listed off. They are completely horrible, of course. And obviously, I understand your anger, if you get me. Like, you know, I obviously am upset with most of those things as well, if you get me. But in terms of what you're saying with, like, there's never been like a time where there's, you know, been peace between religions, or there's been peace between people, or there's never been a time where, I guess, good things have come from religion in general. I feel like that is false, and I feel like that is like a bit of a
Name a time.
generalization. All right, so example in Spain, so under the control of the Moors, for example. So Muslims, Christians, and Jews were all living together at that time for centuries, and I'm not talking about like just a couple years. I mean centuries. And this is when it was a majority Muslim rule. So basically, it was under like a caliphate, basically, in terms of like a Muslim ruler, and Christians and Jews were given their own, like, I guess, their own autonomy, like to have their own state in terms of like whatever they wanted to do. So
because I
Jews,
cannot stop people, because
I
cannot, hold on, let me be clear on this.
Yeah.
Because I have no interest and cannot stop people in believing in the things they wish to believe in. It would be awesome if we could live in a place where everybody had their beliefs and everybody kept them to themselves and everybody minded their own business in regards to each other's beliefs. That would be fantastic. In fact, that would be my goal. I don't necessarily want to destroy a religion. If that's what people need to get through the day, if that faith brings them their hope and they can behave in a moral fashion, keeping their religion separate from politics, keeping their religion separate from education, keeping their religion separate from the sciences, and just leave people alone, I would support that with every fiber of who I am. That is not the world we live in. Right now,
so
I'm telling you,
I'll let you finish.
If the United States falls to a Christian theocracy, there will be no peace in this world. It will quite literally cause the extinction of our species. Even on Europe, I assume you're Muslim.
Yeah, I am.
So even on your own front, give a Muslim extremist a nuclear weapon and find out what happens.
I don't understand what that has to do with the religion in general, though, because I don't know where it says in the Quran.
Because they are the loudest voices in the room. Religious extremists are the loudest voices in the room. Regular everyday Muslims don't speak against these people. They don't stand against them.
We definitely do, and I feel like
so
that's the problem where that
Taliban
causes Islamophobia in general. I feel like that,
so then why does
Islamophobia
the Taliban still exist? Why do these other groups still exist? There are billions of people who are Muslims. There are billions of people who are Christians. And yet we still see these extremist groups. Here in the United States, we have things like the KKK and the Proud Boys and a dozen other hate groups based on the Christian religion. These groups should not exist if regular everyday Christians stood up and said something about it or tried to stop these people from being the way they are.
So what do you mean? So when you say there's billions of Muslims around the world, I don't get what you want each and every single one of them to do. Like, do you want them all to be shipped off to Afghanistan and go to war or something, or
No,
do you want
what
them
I
all to
want
speak
them to
out?
do
Because
is
I'm
stand
saying
up
that
in a
them speaking,
unified voice. I want them to stand up in a unified voice and speak against religious extremism.
and yet we do. Like, I
No,
don't get a
they
single
don't.
instance where
They
you're not letting
don't.
me finish. Like, the whole point of the conversation is, you speak, I listen, I speak, you listen. If you get me, like, whenever you're speaking, I say it respectfully and listen. If you get me, so I'd appreciate if I got the same back. Is that all right? Okay. So as I was saying, I've never met a Muslim which, you know, supports the Taliban or supports ISIS or supports IS or supports Hamas or whatever, for example. Like, you know, we don't go around saying, oh yeah, let's kill all the non-believers, let's blow people up or whatever. And sorry if I leave randomly, I'm quite busy at the moment, so that's probably why. But sorry, as I was saying, we as a population don't encourage that kind of behavior, if you get me. And all the people which I have met who are Muslim have spoken against it. If you can't see that because you're not looking for it, that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. I feel like
For
you're coming from a
starters,
place of, sorry, go on.
I I don't know jack shit about Islam, and I have no interest in it.
Exactly.
I
Which is
grew up
why
in a
it's
Christian
strange.
nation dealing with Christians, and as far as I can tell, laws in largely Muslim countries are horrible in regards to human rights violations
And I agree with that. And yeah, in a lot of Muslim
based
countries,
on the
there are
religion.
no, not based on the religion, because the original Sharia, the original law, is not implemented in a single Muslim nation today. Not one. There is not one single majority Muslim nation today in which Sharia law, as you guys call it, is actually implemented properly. So, and then for you again to say that I know nothing about Islam, for you to speak out against it publicly here is quite strange. Like, I wouldn't go and speak out against like particle theory if I don't know anything about it. It's a bit
It's
strange,
not
if you get
about
me.
it's not about speaking out against Islam. It's about speaking out against the extremists. I can sit here as an American and an atheist and say, yes, it is fine that Christians can believe the things they want to believe, but it is not fine that they use that as a weapon to hurt other people.
And I agree with
I
that.
don't have to
I
speak out against Christianity entirely. I can speak
exactly.
out against the people who think that they have the right to impose their religion onto other people.
Exactly, and I agree with that as well. Like in the Quran, it literally says there is no compulsion in religion. Like, you can't force people to be any religion, no matter what it is. Like, including Islam, because then that takes away from the whole point of religion in general. Because the whole point is based off your faith, if you get me. So to force someone is very counterintuitive in terms of that. So I feel like we do agree on a lot of points, but I feel like the way you word quite a lot of stuff and the way you come across in terms of your knowledge on certain topics is a bit, or can be misconstrued as, you coming from a malicious place. You get me? And obviously, I know
The
that
thing
isn't
is,
your.
we've developed a society, especially in the United States, where you're not allowed to question people's beliefs. If you do, you're seen as hateful and all this other stuff that's just not true.
No, I believe it's good to question beliefs. I believe it's good to question all beliefs, whether it's Islam, Christianity, Judaism, whatever you want to talk about.
Well, I think then you and I are basically on the same page.
Yep, I think we are. All right, see you.
Yeah, have a good day.
I can't complain. I'm gearing up for work tonight, but I've caught you on the last probably about a month, and I'm like, man, I love everything this dude's saying. And then some of your guests has come on and have quoted things they read, and talking about like the devil and demons and how it was a made up concept. And I was like, oh my goodness, I love these people. I myself, I'm an atheist. I'm a spiritual atheist, though. I'm sort of like, I guess you could say, like Frank Lloyd Wright. who said, "I believe in God." I spell it Nature. Okay, um, but that's as far as it goes. As far as this stuff like mixing church and state, I'm way against that. I do not like to mix in the church and state. I don't like these folks uh, influencing me, trying to tell me what I should believe, and using, as we used to say, I remember seeing on the bumper sticker, "Hell, the ultimate blackmail, heaven, the ultimate bribe,"
Yeah.
and and I'm
Well,
like,
so one of the points I want to make with my lives, and it's one of the points I try to make with my content, is that until regular everyday atheists like yourself, until regular everyday Christians stand up against the evangelicals, we are in a world of hurt. This next midterm election here in the United States will determine whether or not this country can even sustain itself anymore. We know that about 60, just over 60% of Americans think that there could potentially be a civil war in the next 5 years. That's because evangelical Christians are going to take control of the House, and they're going to take control of the government, the
"Yep,
Congress, Senate, and then they're going to cheat and lie and get their way into the presidency in 2024. And I don't know what psychopath they're going to put up. It won't be Trump because he's going to jail. We already know that. And
right."
he's lost almost all of his
I'm,
support from his
yeah.
followers.
Oh my goodness, I am
But
so waiting for that.
yeah, but whatever psychopath they put up, it isn't going to matter. It's going to lead to this idea that Christianity should be the thing that defines our laws. And if the regular everyday people, Christian or non-Christian, do not vote, do not stand up, share their voice, call their legislatures and tell these people to knock this shit off. More than 60% of the American population is in favor of healthy, actually I think it's more than 70% of the American public is in favor of healthy access to abortion. And yet, here is the Supreme Court ready to gut it. They're not following the populace. They're doing what evangelicals do. They cheated the system. They got their boy into office. He gave them 3 evangelicals onto the Supreme Court. If we don't do something, and Democrats aren't interested in changing the status quo, Biden's been there for a while and hadn't done really jack shit. If we don't get younger minds and fresher faces into our politics, if we continue to allow Christians to do what they're doing, this country will fall.
Yes,
Guarantee
thank
it
you,
within our lifetime.
thank you. And to answer this guy who commented, Black Lives Matter 301, how is a black man an atheist? I want to know, how can black people be Christian? Okay,
No shit.
because I'm like, it was the Christian Bible that promoted slavery and
100 fucking
and
percent. That is a
and I
factual, that is a historical fucking fact right there. Listen to what this man is saying.
and I was like, oh, I didn't even notice till I was probably about maybe 19, and I was working with a white guy, which I hate to say white because it's one of those things that was developed centuries ago, but he was saying that his uncle or someone had said that he thought slavery was uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh goodness, condoned because of what was in the Bible about it, and and I remember now it was because of supposedly this guy named Ham, his son, seeing him naked,
So
and
like,
and and
yeah,
they turned around
being
and
black or being a different color in the Bible literally is a thing. And owning people as slaves is literally a thing in the Bible. And historically in the United States, the Bible was the justification for owning people as property.
yeah,
The Bible was the justification for segregation and Jim Crow laws. They said it was God's will that the Tower of Babel fell and that people of different races should be separated. from each other. That was literally preached from the pulpit all the way through the civil rights.
And I
All
remember
the Christian religion was 100% in favor of slavery, Jim Crow, and segregation. 100%.
And I remember reading where when the settlers came in and took over to America and wiped out or tried to wipe out the Native Americans and indigenous people. I'm trying to think of the right political word for it, but they brought measles here, and which the Native Americans caught and was dying from, and they were saying, "Oh, this is God's will. This is what God," and I was like, "What?" You
Well,
know?
so I actually jumped into a live several months ago as a black woman who was doing Bible study. And
Oh
in the
dear.
comment section, I said, hey, the Bible was used to condone slavery in the United States. Her argument back to me, and these are her own words, was that God allowed the slavery to bring blacks to Christ.
Oh my goodness. Oh
That's
no.
what some of these people believe. That's how tragic
Yeah.
and how ignorant this religion can be.
Oh yes. I grew up in a family of it. I had a whole family that grew up. My mom
And to me,
were Episcopalian, and
I
oh
to
my
me,
goodness. So I know.
the real tragedy here is that Christianity is the largest colonizing force on the planet.
It
And it
is.
has destroyed so many ancient cultures that had their own beliefs, that had their own their own actual culture. It destroyed these people's culture. And that's so tragic to me that those cultures are lost to the history.
Yes.
Because the Christians just walk the fuck over these people. You go to Haiti, Hawaii, Jamaica, I mean, almost any country in South Africa. I mean, it's a real tragedy that languages, cultures, all of this stuff was lost.
Yeah.
Because of the Christian religion.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, it's something. Yeah. I saw the true light by the time I got to I'm thinking my sophomore year of high school, and I realized this is BS. And unfortunately, I couldn't share my beliefs with everybody around me you know because of I'd probably be kicked out of the house. Well, I don't think my mom would have done that, but I know she would have. She really didn't was not for what I was believing in or non-believing in. But she when I finally came out to where I say in my young adult life, and I guess she pretty much accepted it, me being the baby of the family, but it wasn't like I could, turn her around or even my sister. But it's just that, like I was saying earlier, how anybody could, how especially a black person could be a Christian is beyond me. And they say that, well, Christianity really originally started in Africa. And I'm like, okay, well, somebody needs to show me those books on,
Christianity didn't start in Africa. Christianity started in the Middle East. Africa was a part of it because Egypt is mentioned in the Bible, but by and large, the area surrounding the Red Sea is the borderline for Christianity.
Yeah. And then they talk about how when they describe Jesus, they say that he's of bronze skin and woolly hair, and they say, well, he was black then. And I'm like, well, yeah, but did they really see him as well? As a matter of fact, come to think of it, someone has said that they don't really see back then. They didn't really see color back then. There was no black, white, or anything like that.
Yeah, the race thing didn't start until the slave trade in the U.S.
Yes, and it was something maybe like I think they said Portugal started. When they started enslaving and bringing us over.
Well, I think it
But
was actually the UK. I think it was England that kind of started it because you had the East Indian Trading Company.
okay, but yeah, I want to give you I'm gonna send you something because I feel like I've been blowing my money on other stuff, and I thought I could send this guy something, man. I know about your kidney problem, and I'm sorry about that. Um,
I appreciate the support, my friend.
yeah, because
Being the most of my income comes between being a rideshare driver and doing social media, and
I
being blocked on social media, being banned from going live in the past 3 weeks has hurt a lot.
man,
I'm so far underwater right now. I don't even know if I can see the light of day. I had to make a promise to pay on my cell phone the other day, set for Sunday this week. So I have to come up with like 300 and some odd dollars this weekend to catch up my cell phone so it doesn't get canceled. And I'm still a month behind on that. And then the 17th, my car payment was due. I'm pretty sure my car insurance didn't get paid. So I'm underwater right now. Being on
yeah,
dialysis makes everything just that much more difficult.
yeah. I feel for you, and yeah, I can't guarantee I can send something like 300, but I feel
No,
like I can
no,
give you a little
what
something.
little something, it adds up. People help out all the time. I
Right.
appreciate it.
Have you tried that GoFundMe?
I have a GoFundMe, but it hasn't received a donation in months.
Wow. And yet I can remember reading something about a woman who basically wasn't working and didn't want to work and
Kyle
just
Rittenhouse
needed
got
somebody to
a
pay her.
GoFundMe set up for Kyle Rittenhouse got a GoFundMe set up for his legal defense. The kid made like
Oh
several
yeah,
$1 million in the course of a few days. And here I am,
ain't that something?
kidney
Ain't
failure
that
that
something? I
wasn't
when
my
I
fault.
saw that, I was like, get out of here.
Yeah, here I am, kidney failure that's not my fault. I didn't do anything to cause it. It was just one of those things, struggling to just get by, and it's insane. I don't
No,
understand
my
our species or our culture some days, man. We don't help out the people who
yeah.
need it, or we're willing to help out the people who don't.
Yeah, my dad had the same problem. He had kidney, he had high blood. I heard he wasn't taking his medication, but I never got to know him because he died when I was 6 months old. And but my dad, he died at the age of 41, trying to support 8 of us. He had one daughter when I was well, he had one daughter when he was 15 or 16. He had two other daughters when from a first marriage, and then when he married my mom, he had 5 of us. And so he was constantly I remember my mom saying that when she met him, he was working 2 jobs, and sometimes I found out later, from my older sister that he was working, sometimes 3 jobs. His main job was at a government facility because he served in World War II, and then he had a second job as a waiter at a country club, and then he sometimes helped a guy at a store as a third job. So he was hardly
Yeah,
ever home, and he had the high blood, heart, and all that. Doctor told him quit one of your jobs, and he was like, "We need the money. We need the money." He tried to keep us in the house, keep us fed and everything.
right.
I'm right now. I ended up because of hard times and the economy and everything. Moving back home to this house, and I am grateful that we had this house. I could move back home too. You know, but but my dad, like I said, he had the high blood and the kidney problems and everything, and he ended up dying at the age of 41. I was only a 6-month-old baby, but like I said, I grew up in pretty much a predominantly Christian household. We went to Episcopalian church, but
Right.
then by the time I got to about high school, it was about my sophomore year. I remember writing in a journal, just my feelings and everything. And I found, how the world was and all this evil going on and everything. And I realized, I said, this is BS. There can't be no God out there.
Look, people are hyperbolic in their speech a lot of times. If I have to listen to one more person say it's the end times, I'm going to snap. I'm going to eat my
Yeah.
own goddamn face, because I'm out in the public every day at least once. And I walk into a gas station in the middle of the afternoon when it's busiest, and I don't see people beating the shit out of each other over each other's political ideologies or beliefs. Every time I go out in this world, I don't see people being violent towards each other, hateful towards each other.
No.
People need to stop giving into this bullshit that they keep reading on social media. Believe it or not, the world is actually doing better today than it was 50 years ago. Straight up.
And 50 years ago, I remember they were saying it was going to end in, what was, I think, 1982 when all the planets lined
they
up.
were. There's always been a hate preacher out there talking about the fucking end times, and it's never happened, and it never will.
And when 1999 turned into 2000, they said the world was going to end, and I thought to myself, I said, no, that's too good to be true, because then I won't have to worry about working and paying bills anymore. But
right.
And now they're probably saying the same thing with this new thing going on with the Russians going into Ukraine. They said, oh, this might start World War III and be the end of the world. And I'm like, right. But it's like, no, I just can't swallow this stuff up. But like I said, man, I had to get on here and talk to you and, just tell you, my 2 cents worth, because like I said, I heard I got hip to you just scrolling through here on TikTok about a month ago. I think I was at work when I first heard of you, because I just do work on the weekends now. I'm kind of semi-retired. Hopefully, I can fully retire. But and I was
I
like,
hope so
man,
too, man, because
I said, I love
life
this
is
guy.
stressful.
I love what he's saying. And some of your guests who were on here who kind of felt the same way and they were throwing out these facts, and I'm like, man, I am loving this. I said, why can't I find more people on here like this?
There's a bunch of us. Captain Dadpool, Crimson Barrel, Please Don't Ban Me. There's a bunch of really good atheist content creators on here. So if you go into the search section, the discover section, and you search hashtag atheist, you'll find a bunch of Biddy Buddha, Queen of Heathens. I mean, there's a bunch of us on here.
I'll have to do that, because in the 80s, I was going to an atheist luncheon they used to have once every month on Saturday. And I would go to those, and there was very few of us. Well, it was probably about maybe 3 dozen of us, maybe. And out of those, I was the only black person in there, me and another guy. And I thought, oh, this is not good, But it was nice to be able to at least be around people who, share the same common interest.
Well, if you like spending time, if you've got time and you like spending time on things like YouTube, there's a bunch of atheist content, my friend. A bunch.
Yeah, I have seen that. In fact, I've joined
the Atheist Experience call-in show, Heathen call-in show, secular sexuality, Truth Wanted, the Thinking Atheist podcast and YouTube channel, the Scathing Atheist podcast. There's so much of us out there right now.
Yeah, I was on Facebook, and I remember joining one. It was the Black Atheist on Facebook, and there was one or two others I think I got on. But but everywhere I could find, people of common sense, so to speak. I'm like, I got to hook up with these folks. I got to, join their club. Well,
somebody you should definitely look up as a Black Atheist is Mendisa Thomas.
Mendisa Thomas, okay. Yeah, I have to remember that.
Matt Dillahunty's in the chat. Oh my God, dude, I haven't talked to Matt in 2 years, almost 2 years. Is Matt Dillahunty seriously in the chat? That would be fucking sick.
Yeah. But again, like I said, man, I really appreciate your forum, and I got to make a donation to you, help you out a little bit, a little something.
I'd
and
appreciate it, my friend.
and hopefully other people can do the same, because people like Rittenhouse, if they could. And then I think George Zimmerman, I think, got something too. You
Yeah, he
know,
had help publicly with a legal defense.
yeah. And I'm like, are you kidding me, people? Really? Oh
Yeah,
man.
but I appreciate you, man. I really do. And thanks for coming in and hanging out.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate it. It was nice to, I could vent with someone that I could definitely identify with, because it's rare I could get stuff like that here where I live.
Right.
Because it's like as someone said, another former atheist, black atheist said, how we've got so many churches in the black community, and I'm like, he's right. I
It's kind of
count
a
it
toss
like,
up between churches and liquor stores, right?
yeah, well, for us, it's churches. Unfortunately, there's no liquor stores close by. Because it'd be nice I could just go down the block and grab a bottle of hard liquor, but the churches are definitely like, there's like at least 9 of them in like a couple blocks of where I live.
Yeah,
9.
I
And
lived in
I'm
a
like,
town.
my goodness.
I lived in a town in North Dakota called Beulah. And no kidding, man, I actually Googled it once to see how many churches were in this small town. And this is a small town in North Dakota. And there was like 14 churches in this small town and multiple. I mean, it was just insane.
Yeah.
But I
And,
appreciate you, brother, and I
and
hope you have
and
a
and then
wonderful
and
weekend.
and then, and then on top of that, they're not paying any revenue to the city as far as taxes go. There, there
Yeah.
there's no tax revenue going to the community. It's because
In
it's all.
southern states, in some of these towns, you will see an entire, small town that's just disheveled and broken, people living in poverty, and then like the church is like the nicest building in the entire county, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just rough.
And I'll go for a walk, and I'll go by a church, and I'll see the cars out front, Mercedes and nice luxury cars, and I'm like, look at this.
Yeah.
you know and
It's tragic.
and
It really is that people
yeah.
get abused in such a way.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I'll let you go,
Well,
man.
you have
I
a
really
wonderful weekend,
appreciate
my
it.
friend. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and I'll talk with you again sometime.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So Matt Dillahunty is actually in the comments right now, which is
blowing for me. I don't know if Matt actually remembers, but I had a chance to hang out with him a couple years ago. I think back in I want to say 2020. We had an opportunity to go out to a bar and shoot some pool, and so I've actually met Matt in person, and he's genuinely a really good guy, a lot of fun, and a hell of a billiards player. Kind of walked all over me that night, but it was a lot of fun. And if you guys don't know anything about Matt Dillahunty, you need to look him up on YouTube. He has his own channel. He does some pretty good content. I've learned a lot about what I know about this community from Matt Dillahunty. And he is also one of the hosts of the Atheist Experience and another one called The Hang Up, which I actually have sitting right here on my YouTube that was streamed 2 weeks ago. And I have not had a chance to watch yet. So for those of you who are, that you're curious about the atheist community, you want to know more and you want to listen to the conversation, the Atheist Experience is a fantastic show that helps people out with that. So also, and if you're an atheist and you want to learn how to have the debates better, Matt's personal channel on YouTube has a lot of really good information. So we're going to get into the next one.
Good and you.
Oh, it's just another day.
I wanted to ask, are there more like atheist like channels on YouTube that I can watch? Because like the only channel that I watch is like Dark Matter 2525. I'm not sure if you know him.
I don't know that I do, but I do have a pretty good list here of channels that you can access that I think are pretty good in regards to the atheist community. Let me kind of get to one really quick here. So there's several of them. Do you have like a pen and paper or something?
I have a pen and paper with me.
Okay, yeah. So you're gonna want to write these down. Let me know when you get them written down.
All right.
The Line, TheLine is a really good channel.
I got that.
The Thinking Atheist.
Wait, it's the Thinking Atheist.
Yes, The Thinking Atheist. That's hosted by Seth Andrews. That's a very good. He has actually two kind of things going on. He has a YouTube channel and he also has a podcast, and there's kind of different content on each. And Seth Andrews is one of my favorite atheist speakers. He's a very, very good guy.
All right.
I've got. So I'm sorry. Genetically modified skeptic. So GeneticAlly modified MODIFIED skeptic SKEPTIC.
I got that.
Godless Engineer.
Godless Engineer.
And The Atheist Experience.
Atheist Experience.
Matt Dillahunty.
Matt, what's the surname?
Dillahunty, DILLAHUNTY.
I got that.
Talk Heathen.
Talk.
Yep. And
Heathen.
HEATHEN. Heathen.
I got that down.
I know I have more. Give me a quick second. Unholy Trinity. So the Trinity is going to be a little bit different. So it's Unholy Trinity, TRINI-TEA. Unholy Trinity.
I've heard about this guy named The Amazing Atheist. Is he a good channel to watch?
The Amazing Atheist? I don't know. I don't have him on my list. I'll have to look him up. Paulogia is another really good one. Paulogia, PAULOGIA.
I got that.
Neil, the 604 Atheist. So put in the 604 Atheist, and that'll bring you up to his channel.
All right. I think I've got them.
Freedom. Yeah, here's a really good one though. This one's actually kind of important. So FFRF is a YouTube channel you should follow. It's Freedom from Religion Foundation. That's a YouTube channel. They have pretty good discussions. That's definitely something you should pay attention to.
All right.
And that should be a really good list to get you started. Those individual channels will have other available. They'll advertise each other. There's all kinds of atheist content out there for people.
Yeah, it's just I've seen too many Christian content. Most Christians they don't use the critical thinking. They use their feelings. I don't like seeing that.
Yeah, it is a struggle. I believe that religion is largely an emotional response rather than a logical or intellectual one. I don't know that people have logical or intellectual reasons for being Christian or being religious in general. Again, I genuinely think that by and large, it's emotional manipulation and fear tactics that get people into these groups of people. And it's honestly, I think, fairly damaging. I think that there's a lot of we now have a religious trauma syndrome issue, and a looking at how evangelicals are currently behaving in our politics, we're really starting to see some honest damage coming from these organizations.
And especially from the country that I live in, South Africa. Like the churches, like the pastors, like take advantage of kids
Yeah,
and adults by stealing their money. Because we're
yeah,
already struggling at the moment. Like our president told us to fight for Russia, which is very crazy because we don't want to be involved with this.
yeah. I do know. I don't know a lot about South Africa, but what I do know is that you guys deal with quite a lot of corruption in your politics. Um, Religion just adds to that in general. I think religion adds a lot of corruption to the political theater. So
Yeah, I've tried like since like I'm like 15, people like look at me differently for not believing in Jesus and all these other uh people. They look at me differently. I don't know why.
yeah. Well, my friend, I hope that the information I was able to give you was helpful, and I hope that it gives you room to to grow and learn and think more for yourself.
All right, thank you. Have a good day.
You too, my friend. Thank you so much for jumping in.
All right.
I've said before, above my head is my Cash App and my Venmo. I also have PayPal. I am never going to charge for my content. It is going to remain free. There's not ever going to be a paywall. There's never going to be an advertisement, provided I am under control of that. And I'm not going to join the Creator Fund here on TikTok. This is entirely voluntary. If you think my content is worth merit, if you think it's valuable at any range, please feel free to donate. And if you don't like my content, you can always, message me on Instagram or someplace else and tell me to go fuck myself. I get it. It's fine. If there's other guest requests, we can get into those. What do you know, Matt Dillahunty?
Ethan,
How you doing?
I got a sore throat. I'm taking it easy. I just wanted to jump in it was so strange. It was one of those coincidences that would have made, believers claim God put us together. Because I'm randomly scrolling through TikTok because I just got unbanned after having been on here no time at all.
Well, one of the
And it's
things
like, oh,
I commented on one of your episodes, I think, of the line when you were trying to go live on TikTok at the same time and you got banned.
yeah,
I was trying to
that was
leave a comment to tell you that it happens all the time. Multiple atheist creators on this platform have gone through more than 3 accounts. There's one guy named Just Jeff. I think his new TikTok handle is Please Don't Ban Me. He's gone through at least a dozen accounts.
Well, I'm only going to have the one account. I submitted an appeal, and they verified that I hadn't broken any rules. I was just
Right.
subject of a mass flagging. I just happened to scroll by and heard you mention that. I just want to say thanks for the mention. It's good to see you again, and thanks
Yeah.
for pointing people to like Pelagia and Vice Rhino and Black Lives Matters and Godless Granny and all, especially the smaller YouTube channels. There's a lot of people out there doing a lot of really good work, including you. I'm going to go rest my voice for a while because I've got work to do before I head to Florida. But thanks to everybody in the chat for the kind words. And when I get back and get better, maybe we can, I don't know, maybe I'll jump on some other time and we can chat.
That would be amazing, my friend. And I'm happy to do it. One of the things that I've learned from watching you on the Atheist Experience is that while hurting atheists is like hurting cats, we do need to try to build a better community. And so if I find content that I like, that I think is worth something, I'm going to call it out. I'm going to let people know about it. It needs to be out there. We need to get our collective heads together and try to reverse the damage that is being done.
Absolutely. Everybody stay safe. Thanks, Ethan. I will catch you all later.
Thank you so much, Matt. I appreciate you.
For those who Matt Dillahunty is, please go on YouTube, look him up, Matt Dillahunty, or look up the Atheist Experience. He's one of the main hosts on that channel. He also has another channel called The Hang Up, which is I think Matt's personal channel, and then he does co-hosts on several other channels like The Line. He co-hosts with a lot of different people, and he is one of probably the most prolific atheist speaker of our day and age. And so, a lot of respect to Matt, and I really appreciate him jumping in here and hanging out for just a few seconds. And so let's get into the next guest request really quick.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I've become agnostic, I guess that's the term. But I just wanted to comment on the guest response right before me. He said that Christians might say that you guys were brought together by God and that's how he ended up finding you. I do want to say that as a former Christian, like I can see how a lot of people will like put their lives on the line to defend it because there is something beyond us that we cannot see that does bring us together. We don't know what it is, but that leaves room for a lot of intelligent people, or maybe not so intelligent people, to manipulate the masses because they realize that it does exist. There is something that ties us.
Well, I mean, I don't know what it is, and because I
Yeah,
don't know what it is, I don't know that I should care about it.
yeah. So for
That
my
idea,
personal,
that idea provides so much division amongst us. I don't have evidence that there's anything greater than us. And until I
right,
do, I have to base my worldview on the fact that there isn't anything there. When we discover something, sure, we can run with it. But for now, what that belief is doing is ripping us apart. Not just as a country, but as a species. We cannot get on the same page, mostly because of either economic philosophies or because of religion, greed, and power.
yeah, I agree with that. From my personal experience, like I said, I don't know what it is. I don't know what to call it, but I know it exists. Um, there's been many accounts, like I was pronounced dead and I came back. Like there's so many things. So there is that thing. And I think that if you acknowledge that thing, however you want to acknowledge it, you might be able to win over
So what do
more.
you say to the person who didn't come back? See,
Yeah, I know, I know, I know.
these beliefs,
It's an
hold on,
impossible
hold on,
argument. I know.
hold on. These beliefs are largely based on people's personal experience of things they can't explain. And even though they can't explain it, they sit there and they try to give agency to it. Stop giving agency to things you cannot explain. Just admit to yourself that you don't know. And that's good enough. We don't have to try to label everything with an agency.
I think you missed my
One
point.
one of the biggest shortcomings of our species is that we suck at saying, "Hey, I don't know." We suck at that. We suck at admitting we don't know something. And it's something we need to get better at. Hey, this happened. I don't know. I don't know what it was. I can't give agency to that thing. I can't say it's this or that or another thing because I don't know. And it always comes with an emotional response. It's always well, I had this experience that was super powerful and very emotional for me. And I'm like, okay, well, I agree that you had an experience. But where I'm going to disagree is that you know what that experience was.
Can I give you an example?
Yeah.
I understand that what you're saying is that it's harmful to express these things or label them. I believe that it's also harmful to completely ignore it. I don't know if that makes sense. Because some people can go, I've pulled people away from Christianity. And the result of that led a couple of people into insanity, like literal insanity. And so it's a very, very delicate
The reason
situation. So I would
it
say
led to
just to acknowledge people's experiences and then still help to guide them into their own independent thinking.
that's fine. but you're the thing you're missing in this equation is that religion is an emotional response, and we are an emotional species. You go back far enough in time in our evolution, and what you see is you have two mammals that are our very distant ancestors standing in an opening surrounded by grass. They both hear a rustle in the bush. One of them runs, climbs a tree. The other one is curious and goes and investigates the rustle in the bush. Was it the wind? Is it a predator? The scared one survives. The not scared one dies. And so through that succession of generations and generations of species that led to us being afraid of everything around them, that fear allowed them to survive. And now we have a species that is entirely emotional and fears everything we can't possibly understand. Faith is not a pathway to truth. Faith is a pathway to ignorance. Not knowing something does more damage than knowing it. And so when people who are so emotionally invested in their faith lose it, there's going to be a consequence to that. Now, there are things out there to help these people. Things like recoveringfromreligion.org, the Secular Therapy Project. There are things out there to help people deal with the loss of their faith. But again, to label agency to something we can't understand, or not can't, but don't understand, is so incredibly dangerous. More dangerous than not believing that it exists in the first place.
Okay, that was all I wanted to mention.
All right, well, thank you. I appreciate you coming on.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And please come on any other time. If you ever have questions or you want to talk about anything at any time, you're always welcome to come in here and have a conversation. You said this was the first time you've ever done anything like this. Well, make a habit of it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Let's get into the next one.
Well, as can be
Okay.
expected.
I just had tuned in and I just caught the end where the last guest said that she had led people away from faith and almost put them into a mental institution. That kind of blew my mind. And I had something else to say too, but when I heard that, I was like, what does she mean by not believing them, not believing in their experience? It kind of drove them crazy.
When some
What was
people
she
leave faith,
talking about?
when some people leave faith, it has a pretty hardcore impact on their psyche. They've been lied to their whole lives. They've believed in this thing. They've believed in this thing with every fiber of who they are. And when they suddenly find a place where they're forcing themselves to challenge their own ideas, it could have a huge negative impact on your psyche.
Right, I agree with that because that's exactly what I have been going through since 2015. But I always was brought up in the church and I always believed. And I still believe to this day, but then I did have an experience. I heard the audible voice of God in 2015. I wasn't looking for him. I was just driving my vehicle down the street. And it really messed up my mind. But then on top of that, and I was even a believer, but just having that type of experience, hold on, baby, it really, really messed with my psyche. And so then I had everyone around me.
God?
Well, because he called himself the I Am.
Yeah, but
and I did know. I did not know at the time.
Hold on. How do you know your brain wasn't playing tricks on you?
Well, it's about a 45-minute discussion. I don't think that you have time for that, but because there was some things that had led up to the situation. And then because of what happened to my actual body when I heard the voice, I knew that it wasn't
And
me,
again,
but I
I'm going to ask
continued
you, how do you know that it was God and not your brain?
because then it was an outward experience. I experienced it on the outside of me. I literally heard the voice. It wasn't inside of me. It came from outside.
That's not
If
my
it was
point.
in my brain,
People
okay, the point I'm trying to make is if it was in my brain, it would not have been out loud like you and I are speaking.
Yeah, how do you know that?
I would have heard, it would have been my consciousness. Well, because my brain cannot cause my body to basically split into three different parts at the exact same time.
How do you know that?
Because of what was happening to my body after I heard the voice, and because this continued on
This isn't
in my
knowledge.
life for several years, that's not my brain.
This isn't knowledge. This is personal experience. You got to understand that.
Yes, but I have fought against this personal experience. I didn't want this personal experience. This personal experience has been traumatic in my life. If it was just something I had made up in my mind, I would have been easily to forget it and move on with my life.
No, you wouldn't.
It's
Psychosis doesn't
oh,
work
yes,
that
I
way.
would. Yeah, well,
No,
I'm strong-minded. Yes, I
you are
would.
making a lot of assumptions about things that I don't think that you're very well versed or educated on. We do not entirely
Well,
understand the brain or how it behaves. We do
right,
know a lot. We do know a fair bit about the brain and what it's somewhat capable of. And psychoses are real. I'm sorry, but
right.
if I'm sitting in my room and I suddenly see an object get up and float across the room, because of who I am, I'm immediately going to think that I'm hallucinating. Like I had a mental break or I inhaled a gas.
Right.
The last thing I'm going to come to, ooh, a ghost did it. Because I have evidence of people having psychotic breaks. I have evidence of people stressing out and just having a temporary psychosis. I have all the evidence from the psychiatric field to prove that that's the thing that happens. I have zilch evidence that anything supernatural could have been the cause.
Well, this voice continued on. Well, I only heard it audible once. Then after that, of course, it spoke to me. It's kind of like telepathically is the way I would explain it. A lot of people say that God speaks to your heart, but I would say that it's when people say I just know what he's saying, it's more. I would just explain it as me being able to hear your thoughts and you be able to hear mine.
What do you say to somebody who had a similar experience, but that similar experience fundamentally disagrees with yours?
What do you mean by disagree? Be more elaborate on what you mean.
So it's imagine it's a different God, somebody who's
well, I don't, I believe I don't have a problem with someone who believes in a different God. It's not that's not for me. Everyone has their own path. I didn't come on here to discuss or debate about whose God is who. That I don't get involved in other people's personal journey.
You're missing my point. I'm not worried about other people believing in other gods. That's not the point I'm trying to make. You had a personal experience that led you to this conclusion. What do you say to somebody who has a similar experience that leads them to a different conclusion?
Then that is their reality.
No,
I'm not here to judge that.
Everybody has the same reality. We all live in the same exact reality.
Well, if people are having mental breaks, as you say, then we're not all in the same reality.
How do you know what you experienced wasn't a mental break?
Because I'm not mental.
How do you know that? Crazy people don't know that they're crazy. I was actually, when I was a teenager, I was in and out of juvenile facilities quite a bit. One of the juvenile facilities I went to was a psychiatric ward. They were trying to level my medication for ADHD and bipolar. And this adolescent wing was attached to a literal psych ward in Wilmer, Minnesota.
Right.
Wilmer Regional Treatment Center. And there was certifiable like psychotic break people that were there. There was one dude who thought he was a chicken.
Right. I understand that. I had a family member I've watched family members go through that, but one of the things I think you can agree with me on is although that the patient may not realize that they are having a psychological breakdown, other people around them do. I don't think that you nor anyone else went and said, "Hey, sign me up for the psych ward and put me in there." No, there are evidence and effects that other family members or loved ones, spouse, wife, children, they are the ones that's going to realize this and seek for medical help for you. So if I was having, so to that, I would say that if I was having a medical emergency or a psychological breakdown, my family would be trying, or someone in my life would have noticed other signs besides me just hearing a voice. I would be having other things going on. Like, there's more clues to having a breakdown than hearing a voice.
Unless they
And they would
already
have me
believe,
committed.
unless they already believe in what your and in what your
Well,
mental
actually,
was.
they didn't believe. They didn't believe in what I said.
So
That
your
was the whole
family's
point.
not
I come
Christian.
on. They didn't believe they did not really believe. They believe in God, but they didn't believe the things that He was saying to me were true. Like they
So
were
what
not
did God
accept
say to you?
different things that we're experiencing now, the things that we're going through now. He had revealed
Like
to
what?
me 7 years ago. Well, the famine that's about to come, the war, the pestilence, the FEMA camps, the
hold on,
Walmart, all
stop.
kinds of stuff.
That's always been the case. There's
Right.
always been a war. There's always been a famine. That's never changed.
Well, one of the things I was going to say back when you said, how did I know, or how did I know it wasn't just a voice? And I would love to hear your opinion on this because I'm open-minded. I'm not here to say that I'm 100% right. Like I said, this put me on a journey and I've been searching for a lot of truth ever since. And actually, too, the thing that you were saying about religion, I agree with that. I agree that it can be worse on you if you come out of it, because that was what I was trying to say. After I started experiencing what I would call my God, the creator of this earth, it pulled me out of religion. And I don't think a lot of people say that. A lot of people
Religion,
don't
by
say,
definition, is believing in a God or gods. Let's not redefine words.
well, I would call religion, well, okay, let me say corporate religion, where you're going into a church and you're listening to a pastor. Maybe I should say he pulled me out of corporate religion. But one of the things that I started experiencing after this, I was a truck driver at the time with my husband. We were traveling around the United States, and I would go to certain places, and he would speak to me, and he would say to me to say things to these other people I've never met in my life. And I would say these things to them, and they would just cry and have a breakdown and be like, I don't know how you knew about this going on in my life. And, of course, I'm not a scammer or anything like that. I don't do tarot cards. I'm not a psychic. So how would my brain, explain to me how my brain would connect to a complete stranger and know a situation I've never seen, spoke to in my entire life, or spent any time around? No conversation prior, don't know any of their family.
I'm sorry,
how would I be able to know these things?
Hold on, is your phone ringing in the background?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Is your phone ringing in the background? Because I couldn't hear half of what you were saying.
I was saying, how can my brain
something?
mentally, yeah.
How do I explain something that doesn't have an obvious explanation? I don't.
Right. Well, you were saying that maybe my experience was based on my brain.
I will say, hey, this thing happened, and I don't have an explanation for it. That's the intellectual, honest position to take.
All right.
Presupposing a supernatural causation is intellectually dishonest.
Right. Well, I don't have a problem when people don't believe me. I'm used to that. A lot of it's not.
I didn't say I didn't believe you. That's not what I said.
Well, yeah, I know. I'm not saying you individually. I'm just saying, I came on just to say I agree with how detrimental religion can be on people coming into or coming out of. I totally agree with that comment. And then I was curious about the girl talking, and then I was going to say it is a real thing when you do not believe someone that has had an experience and they truly believe whatever into their experience they have had, it can be very hard on their mind because, like, in my case, I was trying to deal with all the emotion and and my body's response, my mind's response to what had happened to me. And then for other people not to believe me, it was worse.
Did you think to seek, a professional and maybe ask some questions, hard questions?
No, what I done is I just kind of didn't talk to anyone. I really didn't talk to anyone about it for about a year. I just let my mind, my body and things get back to normal, but then it just never went away. And I just began to study. I just put myself into study of all kinds of study, not just the Bible. I just started looking more into creation and things like that, because I really didn't believe, and I still don't believe to this day. I was having a mental breakdown. I went on a quest of who spoke to me. That's what I went on a quest
that
of.
there is absolutely zero evidence to support the claim that the universe was created.
Oh,
we know through observations that the Big Bang happened, but we don't know what caused the Big Bang.
Right.
We know through observations that evolution is a fact. There's no evidence of a creator.
Right. Well, thank you.
And as far as people, when Christians tell me that they've researched the Bible, I tend to not believe them a lot of the time, because they will very obviously have skipped past the parts of the Bible that they fundamentally disagree with without actually recognizing that they've done so.
Right.
I've had debates with Christians who said, yeah, I swear up and down I've read the Bible, and then when I bring up the fact that the Bible condones slavery, they have nothing to say.
Well, I've read the Bible from front to back about 5 times. I don't skip any of it, and I do believe that you can look into the Bible and see slavery. I mean, I look at Adam in the very beginning, who says that he was taken and placed into the garden. To me, I see that as a slavery situation. So I totally agree with that point. And that's
why would
kind
anybody
of my
want to
quest.
worship a God that condones slavery?
Well, that's why I said that I have came out of religion since then. I believe in a creator, someone who's created the universe, but I don't really condone the things of the Bible or believe we are been told the truth. Or I don't know what's going on with the Bible, because it's not related to what I experienced. So I agree with that point.
Again, what you're doing is you're interpreting something based on your personal bias. You had an experience, and you're assigning an agency to it based on your personal beliefs. Isn't it ironic that atheists never need to have an exorcism done?
Well, why would you need one? You didn't believe to begin with. You never had anything to exercise from.
Well, my point being is that the only people who seem to need an exorcism are people who believe that you can actually be possessed by demons.
Yes, I guess so.
That's kind of like a confirmation bias type issue.
Right.
Anyway, I think you should do some more questioning
I have
of the things. I think you should do some more questioning of the things that you experience. I think maybe you should find somebody to talk to about it rather than just make any assumption about it.
That's true. And that was just the point I come on to say, that when you all here on TikTok or in your real life are dealing with people that's went through an experience, I agreed with your last person. Instead of disbelieving them, what you just told me, maybe find some help, maybe find someone to speak with. That's a whole lot better information than just saying someone's crazy or you're a liar, or there's no God. It just messes with people.
There's resources that I would point you to. Maybe look up the Secular Therapy Project and find a non-religious therapist to have a discussion with.
Right. Okay.
All right. You have a wonderful weekend.
I want to ask you one more thing before I go, though. So you believe anyone who believes in a God has a mental disability? Is that what your stance?
I think most people who believe in God were fundamentally abused as children. Fear tactics and emotional manipulation.
I think religion can do that. I think going into a church setting.
People don't become religious out of the blue. It's not just this thing that just happens. There's always a driving force behind the behavior of human beings. There's always
Well, I
something
mean,
that inspires it. We don't necessarily always
all right.
understand what that inspiration is, but it's usually the position of believing in a God or anything supernatural for that matter is an emotional response. It's never an intellectual one. There's never a thought process put into this.
Right. Well, that's true. I mean, most of us that do believe in God, if you look back, probably all over the world, is something we were brought up into. Our families believed. We watched, grew into the religion. Listened to the things that was said.
Yeah.
So I can agree with that. That's why I've
For
had
the
such a
for the
hard
reason that you
time.
believe
Yeah.
for the reason that you believe in some variation of the Christian God is because you were born in the United States. Had you been born in Turkey, you would be having this discussion from the purview of the Muslim God, Allah.
Right. Yeah.
You are
That's why
Christian by
I
accident of
don't
birth.
judge. Well, I don't call myself Christian. I'm not a Christian. I just believe in God. There's a difference. But
So, anyway, I appreciate you coming
Christians
on.
are typically people who follow Jesus Christ. Wouldn't you call that a Christian?
Yeah, typically.
Right.
So then you're a deist,
Typically.
not a. You would
I
be
believe
called
in.
a
I just
deist.
follow after. I just follow after God. Period. I believe
Yeah,
in one
except
God. Yeah.
so what I'm saying is, if you're not following Jesus Christ, then you're not a Christian. If you believe in a higher power that created the universe, then you're just a deist.
Yeah. I guess you could call it that. Yes. I'd have to look into deist. I've never heard of that topic before. So.
Well, actually, I think you're somewhere between deism and theism. Either way, thanks for coming on. I appreciate your input.
All right. Thank you so
I
much.
hope you continue your research and you have a wonderful weekend.
You too. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
You can't really believe all religions are correct because that is a vast contradiction. That is a massive contradiction considering literally all the gods contradict each other. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. People will create their own systems of belief. That's just the way it is. That young lady that was just on just now, she used her own personal bias, her own personal prejudice to invent a God that she chose to believe in. Or not chose to believe in, but was convinced enough to believe in. And without realizing that she's the one who invented it. She probably has a basis in Christianity. That's what it sounds like to me. But then decided that she disagrees with the Christian religion fundamentally to some degree and just invented her own God that's somewhat tangentially related to that religion. And that's what a lot of people do. They invent their own gods.
I am well. Well, I'm as best can be expected. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, I kind of figured my dad was also in kidney failure and he was on dialysis before he passed away. So that's what
Sorry to hear
originally
that.
got me checking into your lives because I saw a lot of similarities to my dad.
Huh?
So I've been, oh my God, it's been so long. I've been trying to get into one of your lives. I've wanted to talk to you for the longest time. I agree with like pretty much everything that you say. I guess my questions are based on like your background. If you don't mind, like I'll
No, I
give you a
don't.
little bit of my background. I was raised in a cult. Like not like
Oh,
using
yeah.
that word lightly, like it was a independent fundamental Baptist is what they called
So I have a
themselves.
question
But
for you.
yeah, what's up?
Oh, well, it's actually more of a suggestion. There called Was I in a Cult? If you email them, they'll do your story. They'll interview you and they'll do an episode of their podcast based on your story. And it's a really good podcast. I invite you to listen to it and make up your mind for yourself.
For sure.
They have several episodes out right now, and it's very telling. I think that once you listen to it, you'll kind of be trapped by it because it's a very, very it's a very open window into that world.
Yeah, I would love to. Is it on Spotify?
I do believe it is, but I got it on Stitcher.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll
Uh,
definitely look into that. That sounds
if it's
really cool.
on Spotify, I think it is on Spotify. Let me double check. But go ahead and ask the rest of your questions.
Yeah, so I am always curious to hear like people like you that have obviously done the deep dive and like they're very educated on the topics. Like how is your background like in relation to religion? Like where were you raised religious, or was it something that you just, because that's kind of how my husband is. He wasn't raised religious, but when he met me and I kind of went over my background with him, he got, really dove off the deep end into it and wanted to like learn everything he could about it. Now he's like a raging atheist. So I'm glad I could
Yeah,
help him out with that. But yeah, I'm just kind of wondering, like, what is your background? Like, were you raised in it, or was it something you
I
just
was
came across and was like, this is madness?
I was raised nominally Christian. And what I mean by that is very light-hearted Christian. We grew up Methodist, which is like the most liberal version of
Yeah, it's like
Christianity.
a Sunday morning Christian.
Yeah. And the only reason we ever attended church really growing up is because my mom was trying to impress her mother. My mom was like the black sheep of 5 children, and she was trying to rebuild her relationship with her parents. So she used us kids, her children going to church as a window door into how can I impress my mom kind of thing. And so it was very nominal, very wishy-washy. Um I did communion like once or twice, and it was really disgusting because it was like this tiny little bit of grape juice
Yep.
and this goofy fucking cracker. And
Yes.
the combination of the two left you with the worst fucking taste in your mouth for
The worst.
hours until we got home and we could fucking like eat something else to get rid of that taste.
Okay, yeah. So you just kind of heard the beliefs there and was like,
Right. And then, well,
absolutely not.
when I was 14, I got it in my head, 13, 14, something like that. I was in juvie for being an angry teenager. I got it in my head that if I read the Bible, I could become a better Christian. If I became a better Christian, I'd become a better person. And I started reading the Bible from like a neutral perspective. I wanted to absorb what I was going to learn from this book and try to be better. And I made it as far as Leviticus before I was absolutely disgusted.
Yeah, 100%. I was on Instagram. This was back like I think I was maybe 17. And when you were saying that your mom, did the showism of religion and everything for her mom, I definitely understand that. My sister is a lot older than me. She's about 14 years older than me. And her and my mom are always very close because my sister, poor choice of words, but she drank the Kool-Aid. So she still very much lives in that lifestyle. They're still very involved in the cult. I got out when I was 18, but what led to that was I was on Instagram and I had commented on a post arguing with someone about religion. But genuinely looking back at it, I had no idea what I was talking about. Like, I did not know what I was supporting. I was just kind of saying, what I had been told my whole life. And this girl on Instagram messaged me and like was so nice to me about it. She was like one of the only people that had ever like really been nice to me and like explained things to me. And that's when I started really being like, okay, this is like something's not adding up. Like 2 and 2 is not making 4 right now. And that was kind of when I started doing a deep dive in it. And bear in mind, I was still very much involved in the cult back then. I was still doing, I was the piano player for the church for like 6 years. Like it was like
I've heard a lot of I've heard a lot of similar stories to this one. The most notable, I can't remember her name, but she held a TED talk.
Yeah, she's from the that church
Westboro
that
Baptist
protests
Church.
military funerals. Yeah, Westboro.
Yeah, she held a TED talk about it was similar, except I think she did it on Twitter.
Yeah, dude, I loved her TED talk.
Yeah, it was. I'm trying to remember her name.
That's crazy. I remembered her name until you mentioned it. Then it went away.
All right, so I'm just going to do like a nominal search. I grew up in the Westboro Baptist Church. Here's about Megan Phelps Roper.
Megan Phelps, yes, she's amazing.
And she had another family member, Nathan Phelps, who had left the church and became an LGBTQ advocate.
Yeah.
He actually did the narration for a speech that was written by Seth Andrews, the Thinking Atheist podcast.
Mm-hmm.
If you go on YouTube, the speech is called Something Beautiful by Seth Andrews.
Yeah, I'll check that out as soon as I get off here. I have the day off, so I'm going to go check out these podcasts that you gave me. Can you tell me the name of the other podcast one more time?
The Thinking Atheist?
No, the first one that you mentioned.
Oh, was I in a cult? And it is on Spotify.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's where I get all my podcasts. So I was like, I really hope it's on Spotify.
So I think you got to be careful because it may trigger some of the stuff you went through, like really, because when you start listening to this podcast, what you're hearing is people's actual experience being in cults.
Yeah.
And so you're going to hear a lot of things that you probably went through. So I want to trigger warn you in advance.
No, I appreciate that. I had tried at one point because there's a couple videos on my TikTok that blew up a little bit that I made, just like before and after pictures of me when I was still in the cult and stuff. And like I did a little story time that ended up being several parts, and like people commenting on it, like sharing all their different stuff. I ended up having to take all the videos down because I just couldn't read it. Like I was like, I don't want to read all of this right now. It's too much, but it's still fun, when I'm in that mental state for it, to go back and read people's stories and listen to podcasts and stuff's really interesting.
My answer to social pressures is I don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah.
I just don't care. I have absolutely zero fucks to give about people's opinions. I appreciate people's support, that's fine. But when people jump into the comments and they start telling me that, oh, he's angry and he's a bad guy and he's a devil worship, I don't care. I do not give a fuck about people.
But the thing is, like, when I tell people, because when I start talking about my experience and stuff, like, I get heated about it because I know that there's still a lot of people that are still stuck in that situation. And like, I went through some horrendous things, and like, you should be angry. Like, you should be angry that like religion is still such a big thing that it's able to hurt people that way. Like, that is something to be angry about.
Yes, it absolutely is. I completely 100% agree with you. Anger should be a part of this conversation. The ignorance and the damage and the harm and the horrible, horrible things that religion inspires in people should be met with some type
of offense and anger, period. Ooh, I lost her connection. She disappeared. Damn. I hope she comes back. Did she come back? Yes, she did. Okay. We're going to reconnect.
It happens on occasion. People get like booted from the live for connection issues or whatever the case may be. But yeah, no, anger should absolutely be a part of this conversation, but I think it should be a controlled anger. There are a number of atheists, and even here on TikTok, who take that anger too far, and they're not having productive conversations.
Right. And that's like, just like the girl that ended up messaging me on Instagram, like the things that I was saying, like she had every right to be like rude and mean to me like everybody else had, and she wasn't. So like that's where you have to draw the line, is like people aren't going to listen to you if you're just being cruel and mean and making fun of them. And like you have to find a balance where you can be angry at what they believe and like how they were brought up, but not take it out on that individual person if they're willing to listen.
Right.
So, and like something else that I wanted to bring up just from like being in your lives and watching your comments and stuff is people will say, well, God himself would have been, a socialist, or God didn't say that LGBT was wrong, or like women had to be. The entire Bible and how I was raised is that even if it wasn't God's own words, supposedly, allegedly, he inspired all of the people. This is in the context that you want to say that it's all true. If we're going to go with the narrative that it's all real and it's all true, then the Bible itself says that everything said in the Bible was inspired by God. So he may not have himself directly said women are subhuman, and people of color are subhuman, and all the wild shit that the Bible says. He indirectly, he did say it. So no, God would not be this great socialist person that like people make him out to be.
Whatever you hold true on earth, I shall hold true in heaven.
Exactly. So like he indirectly said all of those things. So like when they're like, well, the Bible meant to say this when it didn't mean homosexuals, it meant men that lay with, children. No, the Bible specifically says on many occasions that being gay is like punishable by death. You know what I
Yeah, it
mean?
doesn't
Like
say anything about being lesbian. It doesn't say anything about being transgender. It doesn't even say anything about being technically bisexual. But it very much demonizes man-on-man relationships or romantic relationships.
exactly. So it really bothers me when people try to like twist the Bible or like find different meanings to make
Well,
it like
I have kind of a
it said
theory
that this
behind
is
that.
okay when like it
I have
very
kind of
blatantly didn't.
I have kind of a theory behind that. I think that for the longest time in human history, being bisexual was basically the norm. For
Yeah.
like most of our history, being bisexual was the norm. Um, being committed gay relationships was a huge part of many cultures that very long predate Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that when Christianity came about, when those books started to be written, these books were written by the extremists, the modern day today evangelical.
Mm-hmm.
And they looked at how society functioned and they picked and chose the things they didn't like about society and they wrote about it.
Yep.
Here's the things I don't like. Here's the things I disagree with. And then when the church collectively came together, or the powers that be came together to put the Bible, to make the Bible what it is, they cherry picked, selected, and probably re-edited it to
Oh, 100%.
do to some degree what they wanted it to do. And so like they collectively agreed that this one action being done in society is horrible and it shouldn't be, and for no other reason other than like they just didn't like it.
It makes them uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. It's really sad. But yeah, I really like what you do here. I always try to jump in on your lives when I can.
You are very welcome to come in anytime and ask any question you want.
All right. I really appreciate it, Ethan. Good luck with everything. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. You have a wonderful weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
What causes kidney failure? A lot of different things can cause kidney failure. In my case, kidney failure was caused by an autoimmune disease.
In other people's case, it could be a drug overdose, could be diabetes. There's a lot of reasons why kidneys fail. In my case, though, it was just a regular autoimmune disease. And we're going to...
Good. How are you?
Full of joy.
Good. I've actually been following you for a while. I really am really interested in a lot of the things that you say as far as like Christianity is concerned and whatnot. I was listening to your conversation with the girl that you just had on, and she brought up a lot of good points. I kind of grew up in kind of a religious background. My parents and my siblings went to church every Sunday and stuff like that. I really didn't get it and stuff like that. I just kind of I went to IFB Church, which is an independent fundamental Baptist church.
Yep.
And they are pretty close to a cult as you can get.
Yeah, I've heard quite a few stories coming from IFB. You can't be in the atheist community and not hear about them.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it was ridiculous. I almost hated it. I mean, to the point where it's just like there's got to be more to this than what they're saying. It drove me nuts. And then I actually met my wife, and she came from the Pentecostal background,
which is almost as bad.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't go that far.
That's why I said almost. It's not quite as bad, but almost.
Yeah. I mean, there is some crazy Pentecostals out there that I'm kind of like, okay, that's really weird.
The whole just talking in tongues thing's a little fucking weird.
Yeah, actually, my wife actually does speak in tongues, and I actually think it's kind of cool. But I don't, because I don't do it, but she does. But I kind of was listening to kind of your background and stuff like that. On your mom kind of took you to church to kind of impress people and stuff like that, and I mean that kind of explains a little bit on like how your feelings are towards like Christians and Christianity and stuff like that.
That's not just me. Look, one of the podcasts I follow most closely is The Thinking Atheist. The Thinking Atheist is hosted by a man named Seth Andrews. Seth Andrews in the late 90s and early 2000s was probably the most popular Christian radio host in the country. And, you know, Matt Dillahunty, who is the host of the Atheist Experience, Jim Barrows, who is a co-host of the Atheist Experience, pretty much every single co-host or host of the Atheist Experience or Talk Heathen or Secular Sexuality or any of those ACA back shows, almost every atheist I know came out of some form of fundamentalism Christianity. My story, I didn't come out of fundamentalism. I didn't come out of extremism. I came out of like basically just your average Christian church. It was no big deal. But that doesn't speak to why I go after religion the way I do.
Yeah. I mean, and I completely respect your views. I mean, I am a Christian, but I also respect your views, brother. I do. If I didn't, I wouldn't follow you.
I respect your right to believe the things you want to believe or the things you do believe, but I don't respect your beliefs. I never will, ever. Because in every facet, in almost every facet of religious beliefs, it leads to ignorance, which causes harm.
Sure. And I understand that. I mean, I get your feelings toward it. I completely get it. I mean, my sister's an atheist, and I've had many conversations with her about it. But me and her can have just regular, normal. I've had with other people where it's like, okay, this is not. I can tell that this direction is going in a really, really negative direction.
It would be arrogant of me to sit here and say that, or think, even remotely think that I could, by doing this or having this platform, that I'm going to fundamentally alter people's beliefs. That's not my goal. And that's arrogant to think that anybody could. My goal here is to remind people that you wouldn't have the freedoms you have if it was left up to any given religion. And that in order to ensure these freedoms for yourself, your children, your grandchildren, Christianity in the United States needs to be 100% separate from our government.
I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. I agree with that. I don't think
Christians in general need to recognize the idea that their religion is their personal journey, and it has nothing to do with anybody else. And the last thing they need to be doing is standing on a fucking soapbox telling gay people they're going to hell.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the reasons why I kind of hopped on, is when you guys started talking about like homosexuality and stuff like that. Now, I go to a Pentecostal church. I live in Wisconsin and stuff like that. I go to a Pentecostal church. It's one of the most different churches I've ever been to. Like, I serve on our tech team and stuff like that. That does Pro Presenter and stuff like that. There's a girl that's on our tech team that believes in homosexuality. Doesn't see that there's anything wrong with it or anything like that. And we knew that when she wanted to join our tech team. We don't have a problem with that. We don't persecute people like.
So I have a question. We're going to do a thought experiment really quick.
Sure.
Let's imagine for a second that Christianity does in fact take over the United States and we become a theocracy. What would happen to the gay community?
I mean, that's a really good question. Like,
the answer is fairly obvious. I mean, we don't have to think very long to know what Christians in general, as a community, as a whole, in the United States would do to gay people if they had absolute power and control.
What do you think they would do? What do you think?
One small church in Wisconsin is not the voice for the greater Christian community in the United States.
I think there's two ways to look at it. The way I look at it, I look at it as true Christians like myself, and then
there's no such thing. No such thing. No such thing. That's
why not?
A no true Scotsman fallacy.
Why not?
Because there is nobody who can stand up and say this is what a true Christian is and this is what a true Christian isn't. Nobody is given that authority.
Yeah, but there's religious people out there that say, "Oh, I'm a Christian," but all they do is live a religious lifestyle. that persecute
So,
people and stuff like
so
that.
yeah,
I mean,
but
I
you
don't.
can't say that that's not. You can't say that's not Christian.
You know, the way
The
I know, the
problem
way
with
I look.
the problem with religion is that by and large, it's left up for personal interpretation. There's no authority for how to correctly read the Bible. If I walked into your church and handed
Mhm,
3 parishioners or 3 members of your church each a Bible and had them
mhm,
each sit down and read it independently, they
mhm.
would each come up with a completely different interpretation based on their own prejudice and their own personal bias. There is no standard from a belief structure, from a belief system for
Mhm,
how to correctly interpret the Bible. It's going to be left
mhm,
up to interpretation. Now, academically, there's an argument to be made for how the Bible should be understood, but Christians
mhm.
don't give a shit about academically understanding anything
I guess
by
I'm a
and
little
large.
bit. I guess I'm a little bit different because
I hear it all the time, man. I have people come on here all the time and tell me, well, I'm not that kind of Christian. Great, gravy. Why aren't you making content? Why aren't you telling people in the world that evangelical fundamentalism is not the voice of your community? Why aren't
yeah.
regular everyday Christians standing up and telling evangelicals to shut the fuck up and sit down?
Mm. When I see your point, I
So
absolutely see
you
your
come
point.
from Wisconsin. Do you vote conservative?
Yes, sir.
Then you are absolutely 100% responsible for the damage that is done to the LGBTQ community and our education system.
How do you
Your
see that?
beliefs inform your actions. Your actions have consequences.
Hmm.
Conservatives have absolutely no interest in making this country better. None. Their only goal at this point is to own the libs. They have no policies for immigration, no policies for education outside of creating charter schools full of Jesus. They have no interest in the separation of church and state. They have no interest in doing anything that would benefit Americans at all.
You know, I probably would disagree with you on that.
Right now, Greg Abbott in Texas just put out a statewide call to law enforcement in the state of Texas to arrest parents who are allowing gender confirmation for their children as child abuse. If you go to the RNC website, I do believe it's on page 7, where they in detail describe how they want to overturn the Supreme Court ruling from 2015 that allows for same-sex marriage. Right now, conservatives are going to gut Roe v. Wade. Damn the consequences. Conservatives don't give a fuck about the consequences of that action. They don't care that it's going to cause a higher rate of suicide amongst women. They don't care that it's going to cause a higher infant mortality rate. They don't care that it's going to cause a higher domestic abuse rate. Conservatives and Christians don't give a flying fuck that it'll cause a massive flood of poverty in the United States. They only give a fuck about their virtue signaling and their beliefs. They don't care about the consequences of their actions. And they are going to hurt so many people.
I don't know, man.
Name a policy. Name one policy the Republican Party has that would be a net benefit for our country.
Well, I mean, the way I look, let's take people coming into this country. It's
What about it? Dude, oh my God.
Me personally, I don't have a problem with anybody that comes into this country as long as they do it legally in the right way.
Right. But because of the goddamn fuckery that is this issue, there's no easy way to come to this country. It costs an outrageous amount of money to come here legally. You have to be privileged from another country. You have to come from a wealthy family to immigrate to this country. And I don't care what anybody says. I have never in my life seen a white person work nearly as hard as I've seen Mexicans from Mexico work. I worked construction up until I got sick. The vast majority of my life, from the time I was 17, I worked everything. Residential construction, road construction, fucking commercial construction. And I have seen Mexicans run circles around white boys taking smoke breaks every 15 fucking minutes.
Absolutely. I've worked retail the
And
last
it
maybe
does
30
not
years, and I've worked with a
damage,
lot of lazy people.
it does not damage this country. Illegal immigrants have almost no impact on this country at all. None. It is negligible. That is a bunch of hyperbolic talking shit that came from fucking Fox News Entertainment. When President Clinton was still president, we had what we called the revolving door. Mexicans came up from Mexico to work harvest season, and then they went right back to Mexico. And the only reason they started staying was because somebody made it a fucking issue. And then they became afraid that they wouldn't be able to come back for the next season. And so they overstayed their work visas. Sure. And the border, more than 70% of illegal immigrants in the United States come here on a fucking visa, on a plane, and they stay here over their visa. The number that actually crossed the border itself is almost negligible. There is so much misinformation and so many lies being told.
I agree with that.
And it has personally zero impact on your life at all. And don't tell me for 1 second, roles reversed. If you came from a country that was corrupt and ran by fucking cartels, don't tell me you wouldn't jump a fence to save your children's future. Illegal or not. One of my biggest pet peeves with the conservatives is that they lack basic human empathy. They have no capacity for putting themselves in the shoes of other people and trying to understand their perspective. If I lived in a country and I had children where their limited options were 100% limited and there was nothing I could do, I would jump a fence in a heartbeat. I don't give a fuck how illegal it was, to ensure my children had an opportunity. So again, I'll ask you, name one public policy that comes from the Conservative Party that helps anybody. Being a Christian, you should be all for trying to help the sick, the needy, the poor, except your party specifically defunds all of those programs. Every fucking one of them. I am on disability for being kidney failure.
Yep.
I actually work jobs against my doctor's, not orders, but advice.
I'm on disability too, man. I'm on disability.
I get $1,000. I get $1,000 a month.
Yep. So do I.
That's because conservatives defunded those fucking safety net programs.
I don't agree with them doing it that way, but I think we need to do better programs out there, because there's a lot of people that take advantage of those programs.
No, there's not. No, there's not. That's although another misinformation line of lying bullshit. That's not true. The little bit of money this country wastes on a couple of lazy people is, again, negligible. The vast majority of people who are on disability or public assistance work jobs. They're on they're on these welfare programs because the companies they work for don't pay a living wage. So, like, for instance, your tax dollars subsidize Walmart and McDonald's and Target and Burger King. These companies refuse to pay their employees a living wage. And because they don't do that, these people fall below the poverty line. And so they get welfare because of that. You are paying Walmart to not pay a living wage.
But if you
profits, Walmart has record profits over the last 5 years.
Yep.
And their CEO can give himself 160% raise, but they can't pay a livable wage.
Yeah. I don't have a problem.
Want to complain that people on welfare are just lazy.
I don't have a problem with people making more money at all. I don't. But I do have a problem with saying, okay, everybody should be making $15 an hour. Everybody should be making $20 an hour. If I had my
That's
own
because
business,
you don't
somebody
understand the
came walking.
economics.
Hold on. If I owned my own business and somebody came walking in my business and said, you know what, I will bust my ass and work the hardest I can work if you pay me $22 an hour, I'd give him that, because I know he's going to do his best at his job. But I have worked with so many kids and other people in my jobs where they'd be making, let's say, $9.50 an hour. I wouldn't even pay them that because they're so damn lazy. I don't
It's
see
not
paying.
about it's not about the effort that it's not about effort. That's what skilled labor is for. Skilled labor is people who are willing to put in the effort. Unskilled labor literally makes up like 70% of the fucking workforce.
But I mean,
Go
if
ahead.
you were making,
Take all of the adults. Take all of the adults. Take all of the adults out of fast food, restaurant, leisure, shopping malls. Take all the adults out. Give them all skilled labor. What do you have left? Teenagers. So then McDonald's is only open from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Kids got school.
Something like, I think it's like 9 p.m. that they close if they have
Right.
a bunch of kids. So
my point stands. You're only going to be able to get a burger between 4 or 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. every day. These companies, McDonald's, would collapse. They wouldn't be making money for 19 hours a day.
Sure. Can I ask you a question?
Go for it.
If you were working and let's say you were making $20 an hour, they hired somebody else, and it doesn't matter how old they are, making for the same amount of money, and you're busting your butt working as hard as you possibly can, and you notice this person doesn't give a crap, he's just there to collect a paycheck, doesn't work hardly at all. Would that piss you off?
Eventually, he's going to get his dumb ass fired.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to get at.
Look, you're under this idea that life is fair. Since fucking when?
Life isn't.
Well, right. So we understand that life isn't fair, and that's just the way this shit works sometimes. Oh well.
But
that doesn't mean that person should be homeless. It doesn't mean that person should go hungry.
But we live in a country now that's what they want, is everybody.
No, it's not.
To be fair,
you're living in a country right now where eventually the workforce is going to become completely obsolete.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the country that we live in right now. They can't find workers. People are hiring.
Why do you think
people
that
don't
is?
want to work because people don't want to work because the government.
The unemployment is below 5%. Don't tell me people don't want to work. Why do you think these companies can't find people to work for them?
Because the government's paying them unemployment.
No, they're not. That's a bullshit lie.
It's not a lie, brother.
Unemployment. Listen to me again carefully and hear the words that are coming out of my mouth. Unemployment is below 5%. More than 95%.
It's over
more
7%.
Than 95%. More than 95% of Americans are at work.
I don't know where you're seeing that, but
that's what the government's reporting. Unemployment is below 5%.
That's the thing. You're listening to the government will tell you whatever they want. You can't trust what the government's telling you.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Not a conspiracy theorist.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist. You cannot trust what the government's telling you.
So, yeah, but you're trusting Fox News.
No, I'm not. I don't even listen to Fox News.
Because every single talking point you brought up literally comes out of the lips of Tucker Carlson at least once a week.
I don't listen
Every talking point you have brought up, immigration, all of the talking points you have said come out of Fox News like clockwork. That's their whole platform. The reason why a lot of these companies can't find workers is because these people did exactly what conservatives told them to do. Go find a better job. And they did. They went and found a better job, pays more money. That's why they don't have workers at restaurants. That's why there's a labor shortage. People went and found other ways to make money.
Some people did. I wouldn't say everybody did. I wouldn't say everybody did.
Well, how much money do you think you make living off of fucking unemployment and government assistance?
Well, when the whole COVID thing was going on, we made more money.
They
My wife
ended that.
made more
That's
money.
over with. That bonus on unemployment went away. It's done. Like September of last year, they stopped that shit.
Yeah, and you would think that more people would go back to work, but people
Or they
can't.
found different work.
You can't. But you can't. They can't find. I talk to business people all the time. You can't find workers anywhere. I have applications dropped on my desk weekly, and I'm like, I'll bring you in for an interview. They're like, no, well, I'm just doing it to collect my unemployment. People don't want to work, dude. People do not want to work. They do not want to work.
Bullshit.
It's not bullshit.
It is bullshit.
It's not
the conservative idea that people are lazy and don't want to work is bullshit.
It's not. I'm not
Really?
saying everybody. I'm not
so
saying
who are
everybody's
you?
like that.
Who are you to speak for the fucking actions of others? Are you living their lives? How the fuck do you know what's inspiring in these people's behavior? Current unemployment rate, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, is 4%. Which means 96% of Americans are working. Of that 4%, how many of them are disabled?
I am a disabled worker, so I'm one of them.
So am I. I work ride share.
I mean, I talk to people. I talk to people all the time. That I walk in the store. I talk to them. Let's say a cashier, for example. I'm like, how's the work going? And they're like, we can't find anybody. Can't find anybody.
Why? Why are people choosing to no longer work for companies like Walmart? Why?
Or restaurants, for example. You go to a restaurant, they don't want. I firmly believe they don't want to work.
You're dumb.
They don't want to work.
You're dumb.
Okay, dude, don't call me dumb. I'm not insulting you.
They are not paying a livable fucking wage. That is why nobody wants to work for those fucking companies.
Okay, I make $12 an hour. My wife makes $15 an hour. We own almost a 3,000 square foot house. So don't tell me that you can't make
Congratulations
a livable wage.
for you.
You don't tell me you can't make a livable wage on that.
You
can.
Really?
You absolutely can.
Because at the peak of doing my job as a rideshare driver, I was making somewhere between $2,500 and $3,500 a week. Or sorry, a month. A month. And I can't buy a house.
I don't know what to tell you, man.
Don't give me that shit.
I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
I don't.
Because your personal experience is not the fucking norm. Houses in the greater Phoenix area cost more than $400,000. And I mean a broke ass shitty house.
Sure. I mean, my first house wasn't.
The apartment complex I currently live in is a 2-bedroom townhome with 2 baths and a 2-car garage. When I moved into this building, my rent was $1,400 a month, split between 2 roommates.
Sure.
In March, if I was to sign a brand new lease, my rent would be $2,090 a month. What's your fucking mortgage?
What's my mortgage? $1,500 a month. All I'm saying, man,
Not
I mean,
everybody.
I know there's people out there that can't afford to get a house. I know. There's some
Most
cities
of
that
us. Most of us. And you're dealing with 2 incomes, not 1. And I don't know about your credit history. Maybe you had really good credit. Who the fuck
my
knows?
credit.
Maybe you had a cosigner. I don't know your specific fucking whatever.
The reason why I brought up me is the fact that you were saying nobody can live on that. Me and my wife live comfortably, very comfortably. It wasn't always like that. It wasn't always like that.
So then maybe
A lot of
Wisconsin
times-
is just doing better than the rest of the country.
No, it's not because Wisconsin's doing better than the rest of the country. I think there's a lot of people out there, and I'm not saying you're one of those people, but I think there's a lot of people out there that don't know how to handle money. And that's why sometimes they're in the situation. Look at professional athletes, for example. They make millions and millions of dollars, but when they retire, they're bankrupt because they don't know how to handle money.
And why is that?
Because they're stupid. They're stupid. They don't know how to handle money. I was raised on how to handle money. And how
right here,
to...
ladies and gentlemen in the comment section, I want you to pay very close attention to this part of this conversation. Because instead of recognizing the real problem, which is a serious lack of education, this Peckerwood just wants to call people stupid. This is the conservative fucking line. This is what people think in this conservative bloc. They lack human empathy right up to the degree that they can't possibly understand how people could make mistakes in their lives when they have absolutely no decent education whatsoever. And being that it's a conservative party that has largely defunded public education and completely fucked it into the ground, now we have charter schools, religious schools, home schools, blah, 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 Jesus freak bullshit. And none of these conservatives will ever recognize the consequences of their beliefs or the consequences of their actions. Democrats are not perfect, and by and large, they're doing fuck all to change the status quo right now. But the difference between a liberal and a conservative is that a liberal actually wants to see a utopia based on equality, whereas a conservative just wants to tell you to fuck off and get it for yourself. No matter what adversity you might have to face in your life, no matter how difficult it may be, fuck off and figure it out for yourself. This is not Christ-like. This isn't helping the poor. This isn't helping the disenfranchised. This is not what they fucking preach. These people are ass fucking backwards as it possibly fucking gets. This is 100% hypocrisy at its finest. Either you listen to Fox News or OAN or whatever fucking right-wing bat shittery these people listen to, it's always the fucking same. Doesn't matter what mouth it comes out of, it's always the same. People are lazy, people are dumb, people don't want to work. Bullshit. That is an absolute bold-faced fucking lie, and it diminishes other people's lives and their fucking experience in this world. This is disgusting behavior. Period. Now, sir, you voting conservative is essentially you voting against your own best interest. Whether you want to believe that or you don't, that's up to you. You ban abortion, you plummet this country into another Great Depression. I fucking guarantee it. You keep cutting funding to schools, to education, I guarantee you bury this country behind every other civilized nation on this fucking planet. You keep going down the conservative route, and you will turn this country into a fucking theocracy, and you will see the end of our species within 100 years. We will go fucking extinct because Christians and religious people in general do not give a fuck about consequence of behavior or action. Hand any evangelical Christian the fucking the button to a nuclear weapon, and you watch this world end like that. You hand that same button to a liberal, and they will dismantle those weapons so goddamn fast your head will spin. At any rate, Matt, I hope you have a good weekend. Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. So, was that guy going to mention that he had two incomes to support a
Yeah,
household?
that completely fucking, went right over the top of his head.
Also, what fucking moron works in IT that only makes 12 an hour? Matt, how do you work in IT and only make 12 an hour?
I think he made 15 and his wife made 17, but still working IT and making that little amount of money is embarrassing.
Like, honestly, your labor is worth much more if you're working in IT.
One of the things
need to make a
conservatives fail
minimum.
to understand. One of the things conservatives fail to realize and understand is that median incomes, if median income would have kept up with inflation and the cost and production, then the minimum wage right now would be like $32 an hour.
Oh yeah.
And somebody like him working IT would be making like $60 an hour.
Minimum. Chick-fil-A is paying cashiers $15 an hour. Hey, who wants to work for the Bigot Chicken?
Well, and they never blame the people that are responsible for this shit. Walmart CEO can give himself 160% raise and not even think to raise the fucking wage of the regular workers. And, conservatives are okay with that.
You know, it's funny. I am a security professional. I make 18 an hour. And I still struggle.
Yeah. I am actually going to sign up. Right now, I'm in the process of getting ready to move to Avondale. I currently stay in Tempe. I'm going to move to Avondale. A friend of mine is giving me a spare bedroom for $300 a month. So while I'm there, I'm going to take advantage of it.
Kevin.
And I'm going to sign up for Google. They have 5 separate certificate deals. One of them was data analytics. I'm going to sign up for that.
Hey, Kevin, just because you can equate my job to quote unquote mall cop doesn't mean I'm not a fucking professional, moron.
It also, you have a job. What the fuck is he bitching about? Oh, he doesn't like the job you're doing. That's what it is. Conservatives think that some jobs just you don't deserve to live if that's the job you're doing.
Yup. Every time. Like, everyone needs to make more.
Or rich people need to stop artificially inflating the cost of everything and bring prices back down.
Nah, yeah, that was incredibly frustrating to listen to because what sort of fucking like
that's the mindset of conservatives, right? They say they're Christ-like. They say we help the poor, and they don't. They don't do anything to actually help people. Nothing. All they do is piss and moan, and they never ever come up with a fucking solution to the problems they're bitching about.
Yep. All they want to do is toss people in jail or criminalize being your own self.
Hating on trans people, hating on gay people, hating on women and their fucking bodily autonomy. Like, they don't give a fuck about the consequences of their beliefs at all.
Oh, yeah. No, they don't give a shit.
And right now, the only group in the entire U.S. that's clamoring for civil war are Christian activist groups. Go figure.
Good old evangelical nationalists.
Yep.
Okay, one
Some
thing
days
I'm
this
seeing in the
conversation
comments,
it just gets under your skin, you know, and
one thing I'm seeing in the comments is, oh, I'm conservative and I care for everyone. Then stop voting in these assholes. If you keep voting in these assholes that want to take away rights, then you're not a good person.
as according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 4% unemployment rate, total unemployed people, 6.5 million. In a country of 330 million people, 330 million people, 6.5 million people are estimated to be unemployed. How many of those 6.5 are disabled?
So many.
Yeah, kidney failure is no fucking joke, man. Like my resting blood pressure is 200 over 140, and that's at rest. I would never want to sit down and take my blood pressure while I'm bowling league.
Exactly. Oh man, but no, it's ridiculous that all of these conservatives and fucking, I'm gonna say it, libertarians, they want to fuck us
Yeah.
up. They want to just throw us to the wolves and then wonder why we don't fucking like them.
You know, and I tried to challenge that guy. I asked him, name one policy, one public policy that Republicans have that is an actual benefit to our fucking country. There isn't one. There is no public policy they have that is a benefit to us. Not one.
Not a single one. And it's funny because, don't tread on me. Dumbass, listen. Well, I'm not a fucking Democrat. I'm a communist.
Neither am I. I'm not a Democrat. I'm a progressive.
But
and
everyone,
I will argue against communism until I die, because on paper, sure, communism could work on paper, but fundamentally, there is no such thing as a political ideology that is not, or that's above corruption.
oh no, absolutely.
And communism can't work anyway because of the human condition.
You know, that's one thing, but we're basically on the same wavelength when it comes to progressives.
Yeah, I'm a progressive. I want to see less suffering and more well-being for everybody, not just a handful of one percenters.
Socialism is just as bad as communism. My friend, you're a fucking moron.
Socialism. This argument over political ideologies is such a waste of fucking time. It doesn't solve the problem. You can sit here and bitch about socialism. You can bitch about communism. You can bitch about capitalism. Keep bitching, because until you come up with a fucking solution to the problems, all you're doing is bitching.
Yep. They just
Let's do a quick head count here in the United States. State by state, which states are doing better from an economic perspective? Blue states, typically, with the exception of California, which is still one of the largest incomes in the GDPs in the fucking world. We'll leave Texas and we'll leave California out, because they kind of balance each other out on their fucking insanity.
Nah, even Texas is even they are in the red.
Well,
like financially.
Mississippi is the brokest state in the United States. Least amount of job growth, highest rate of diabetes, worst healthcare system, worst education system, highest infant mortality rate. Like, red states suck, period. They're the most impoverished states in the country. They take more in federal funding than they pay into the federal government. Blue states get back less in federal funding than they pay in. So blue states are literally paying for the poverty of red states.
Oh yeah.
That's a fact. That's a fucking economic fact.
Hey,
Why?
Junkman,
Because red
just
states
because you
are
have your trailer
largely
paid off
red states
doesn't
are
mean
largely
shit.
Christian, and they do not operate based on evidence. What works, what doesn't work. Period.
For sure. Like, I'm getting ready for work right now. I'm about to head out into 30-degree weather. Because some of us need to pay bills. Democrats are Christian. Yeah. I can see how a few of them are.
Highest unemployment rates, top 4: Arizona, Oregon, Florida, Mississippi. All red states. Highest unemployment rates in the country. So for you, for all you people wanting to talk about, which ones are getting the most unemployment benefits? Red states. Red states are getting the most unemployment benefits.
Yep.
Oregon is barely blue. Oregon is barely blue. And that's only because of Seattle. You're missing the rural areas in Oregon. Great. Fine. Oregon's blue. That's 1 blue state, 3 red states. Your fucking case is still shot to shit.
Yeah, Ethan, I just wanted to let you know I love you, dog.
All right, man. I appreciate you, dude. I hope you have a good day at work.
I will. I will be earning my wage to pay for my bills.
I stand corrected. Portland, Oregon. Excuse me, I got the cities mixed up. Oh, shucks. Either way, my point stands. 3 red states, 1 blue one.
Remember, there are always exceptions to the rules, guys.
Yeah. Hey, man, you have a good day.
Hey, you do the same, bud. Bye-bye.
Yep.
No, it's fine, Watery. I'm not addressing the people that are correcting my mistake. I'm addressing the fucking Republicans who are running off at the mouth. This red versus blue bullshit is fucking annoying. I don't even want to have this conversation. My point in this is that the most religious states, the most Christian states in the United States, are the ones suffering the most poverty and the most issues. That's my point. And conservatives do not have public policies that actually help people. They don't. No, most blue states do not have higher drug crimes or drug rates and crime rates. That's actually very untrue. Highest crime rates, we can fucking search that too. I don't know why I have to do all this fucking research for you guys before you come in here with all your fucking highest crime rate states. By Statista.com. No, I'm not paying money for that shit. Go fuck yourself. Worldview population. Let me see. Oh, hold on a second. I'm trying to find it. All right. Here are the 10 states with the highest homicide rates: Louisiana, Missouri, Nevada, Maryland, Arkansas, Alaska, Alabama, Mississippi, Illinois, and South Carolina. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those states are red. 2 of them are blue. Maryland and Illinois. I'm actually not even convinced that Maryland and Illinois are blue. But for argument's sake, the vast majority of those are red states. So crime rates, homicide rates are higher in red states. Homicide rates, total firearm death rates. Louisiana leads in 21.2. Missouri 18.8, Nevada 16.7, Maryland 11.8, Arkansas 17.7, Alaska 23. Whoa, that was off fucking kilter. Holy shit. And that's just the homicide rate. Louisiana has the highest crime rate in the United States. I never said Dem shit gold. I never once said the Democrats shit gold. I never said that. My perspective on this is one based on religion. The most religious states in the United States are the worst ones to live in. That's a fucking fact. Conservatives happen to be more religious than liberals. Don't get me wrong, Democrats are Christian too, by and large. The vast majority of people that live in the U.S., regardless of their political affiliation, are Christian. But the Christian extremists are almost always, 99% of the time, conservative Republicans. And again, I challenge you. Name for me a public policy that the Conservative Party has that is an actual benefit to our entire country. I don't see liberals clamoring for civil war. I really don't. I see a lot of conservatives.
If you want to stay on politics, I can go back out.
No,
but
it's fine. We can change the
okay, I was
topic.
just curious. I was curious, because you believe in the Big Bang and things like that. What do you believe happens, after you pass? What is your
Nothing.
belief on them? You just go to sleep and
You're dead.
everything.
Period. Over with. Kaput.
So you don't believe your soul carries on or goes back
Don't
to
believe a
anywhere?
soul. I don't believe a soul exists. I have no
Okay.
evidence to support the claim that there is either an afterlife or a soul.
Okay, well that wraps it up. I was just curious because it's hard to
Yeah.
ask you questions
I
in the
mean,
comments. So
the electrical and chemical reactions in your brain are the things that give nature and rise to your consciousness. Without a brain, that thing can't exist, as far as we know.
right. And then while I'm up, let me, if I can, let me ask this also. Did you have? You seem very angry. You don't
Yeah,
believe.
a
You
little
believe in
bit.
the Big Bang. Yeah.
Some
You
some
believe in
days
the big.
anger is a part of this conversation.
Right. Which these lives are probably good for you. Helps you get out.
If I have to read one more story about a 13-year-old girl getting booted out of her fucking home because she came out as gay or trans and her
Right.
Jesus-loving parents decided to abandon their child in their
Right.
greatest time of need. Yeah,
Yes.
anger is
It's
going to be a
sad.
part
I
of the
know.
conversation.
Right. Well, I was curious. I know you said I don't know very much of your backstory. I've only been on here today. I'm hearing that your mother took you into church and things like that as a young child. Did you believe at any time in your life
Yeah,
as a young
I believed.
child?
I believed in it all throughout my childhood.
What
I was.
happened that
I was my
caused you to
grandma.
change?
I was my grandmother's very first grandson.
Yeah.
I'm not the oldest grandchild, but I am the oldest grandson. And so, like, I was grandma's favorite little boy for a very, very long time. And grandma always took me to church. When I hung out with grandma, going to church was just a part of life.
Right.
And I very much believed what she taught me and what she believed. And I went to Sunday school and participated with the church all the time. I very much grew up in that community with my grandmother and my mom. But
Was it did something personally happen that angered you
no,
and made you change your mind, or maybe were
no,
you
I
searching
sat
for
down and
something that never happened?
sat down and I read the Bible. That's the thing that turned me away from
So the
believing
Bible,
in a
yeah.
God.
Yeah, that's a huge problem. It turns a lot of people away from
And
God.
then
I
you go beyond
absolutely
that,
agree with that.
there's no scientific evidence, none whatsoever, that a God exists.
Right.
Any God.
Basically, the only thing we ever have is our own experiences. You can't go by what a man says.
Personal experience is not evidence. There's a reason why we
Right.
don't prosecute people based solely upon eyewitness testimony. We used to,
I
and a lot of
agree.
innocent people went to prison, and a lot of innocent people probably faced the death penalty. But then we started requiring evidence to corroborate personal testimony.
Right.
Because we
Well, I mean, I
misremember.
can't
And our
see
brains play tricks on us.
I can't see the air outside that I breathe, but because I
You can
feel
measure
it,
it.
then I
You
can
go
understand it's
on.
there.
You can measure it.
I'm not a scientist, so I don't understand how you would measure air. But yeah, I understand you can't measure God, but we can measure the
The air you
natural
breathe is
elements around
largely
us.
made up of oxygen and nitrogen. That's the air
But
you breathe.
we can't see those elements.
Yes, we can, microscopically. We understand what oxygen is.
What if we could see God microscopically? Maybe we just don't have. And I'm not trying
But
to
we
turn
haven't
anyone
done that
towards
yet.
God. I'm just saying maybe we haven't got to the point where we
Fine,
have
great.
enough.
Maybe there is a God and we haven't discovered it yet. Fine,
Right, that's what
but
I'm wondering. Yeah.
until we do, what good does it do to assume that it exists, or to assume that we know what that God is thinking or what it demands of us?
That's true. I agree with that. I think a lot of people think God wants things from them. The people who believe, I think they get misconstrued what he's needing from them. I do agree with that.
Man, honestly, I wouldn't, even if God did exist and we knew with absolute certainty that there was a God, I still wouldn't worship it. That idea is holistically immoral and kind of gross. Nothing deserves worship.
What is your definition of worship, though? What turns you off about that word? Everyone may not see it the same.
Belittling myself at the empowerment of another.
So placing an authority above you.
Sure, that's how you want to word that.
Okay. Well, I was just curious. Thanks for having me on. I just didn't know if something had happened, in younger years. A lot of people have experiences. I had several experiences in church. Church can really harm people also. So I didn't know if some.
Most people don't necessarily leave religion because of trauma. Most atheists that I know left religion because they sat down, took a good, long, hard look at what they believed and why they believed it, and they found out that they didn't have a good reason to do so. Most of the people I know who are religious specifically because of some type of trauma they suffered in their life. We don't leave religion solely based on trauma. We leave religion for logical reasons. We join religion for trauma.
Well, you didn't join religion at a young age for trauma. It was just something you were brought up in, right? Well, let me ask this. You say
emotional manipulation and abuse. That's how most people start out being religious.
Well, I'm listening to you, and I am still on my journey. I'm still on my path. So this is why I'm asking you questions. I'm not trying to
No, I want you
debate
to ask
who's right or
questions.
wrong. Okay, but you're saying that most atheists sit down and make a decision. There's no God based on
No,
what they read,
they don't make a decision.
based on their
They don't. They
evidence
don't.
of what
They
they've
don't
read.
make it. They do not make a decision. We don't choose our beliefs. You are either convinced of something or you are not convinced of it.
What
In most of the,
convinced you? Something you read? That's what I'm asking you. What
yeah,
convinced
the
you
thing that
as an
convinced me that
atheist?
the
So
thing
the
that
things
convinced
that
me.
convinced you were things another man wrote. You are going off a belief. See, this is what I'm trying to come out of. I don't want to go off another man's writings. I don't want to go off another man's opinion. I don't want to go off
Okay,
history.
so then without the
History can
Bible,
be
how the
fallible.
fuck
I
do
want
you
to
know
go
that there's?
off my.
Oh, stop! Without the Bible, how the fuck do you know anything about God?
That's what I said. I have to go on my own personal experience, but we're
Right,
denying our
but your
experiences.
personal experience is not evidence, and it doesn't apply to anybody else in this world except you.
Right.
And if there is one true God who wants us to worship and know Him, and He's only talking to you and
Right.
nobody else, well, that's just kind of
Well,
fuckery, isn't it?
I didn't say he only talks to. I guess
Well,
you mean generally people believe that. I'm not saying he doesn't talk to
I
other people.
I
Okay.
know a lot of
Right.
people who have never ever heard a voice in their head.
Right.
I hear a
But
voice in my
but
head.
what I'm saying
I
to you is you're
recognize that
making your
voice as
decision
myself.
based off these people who write these books, the people who wrote the Bible, the people who write these books. They're writing those things off of their experiences or things that has happened to them. If they sit and say, "Well, I don't believe," they're hearing this is passed down tradition. Whether it's a
Yeah.
passed down Christian tradition, if it's a passed down atheist tradition, no one you cannot go out
There's
and
no
say,
such
"I have
thing as a passed down
experienced no
atheist tradition.
God." There's no way.
There's no such thing as a passed down atheist tradition.
But there's no way to experience a no God. That doesn't make sense to my mind. For people to say, well, I can't. There's no God because I never experienced Him.
One, I
That's
never
not
said there
proof
was
there's
no
no
God.
God. No, I'm not saying
One,
you. I'm not saying you. I'm just saying the
and,
general
and
mindset.
anybody who makes the claim that there is no God is a fucking idiot.
So you believe there's a God?
I know.
Or you're
I
saying
don't.
there's no proof there's not. So you're saying there's no proof either way, right?
Stop.
I'm
You
sorry.
are
Go ahead.
confusing yourself. Stop. I am an agnostic atheist. Agnosticism is the claim to knowledge. I do not know if there is or is not a God. Atheism
Okay.
is the claim that I am not convinced of a God due to insufficient evidence.
Okay, I thought you were an atheist. I'm sorry.
I am an atheist. But you're misunderstanding what the word atheist means. It is
So
not
is agnostic part of atheist? Is it a step down? Like, is that?
No. Let me explain. Atheists do not make the claim that there is no God. That is not the atheist position. The atheist position is I am not convinced of a God. There's a difference.
Okay, but now explain what you believe.
I just did. I'm an agnostic atheist. I do not know if there is or is not a God, but I am not convinced of the claim that there is a God. You say there's a God. I don't believe you. Show me evidence that a God exists.
Am I wrong? I mean, I've been sitting here for 2 hours, and based on your comments, I thought many times I've heard you say there is no God.
No, I've never said that.
But now you're saying you're not convinced.
I've never said
I'm really
there is
confused.
no God. I never once said there is no God. Never said that.
Okay.
Because the thing with the scientific community and the scientific method is when you make a claim, a positive claim about the nature of reality, you're required to show evidence for that claim. If I sit here and tell you that there's a pink and purple polka dotted unicorn in my bathroom, I made a positive claim about something that exists. I need to provide evidence for that. The same is said, if somebody says there is no God, they are required to therefore show evidence of that claim. I cannot do that, so I do not make that claim.
Got you. I understand. I think at the end of the day, none of us really know.
I'm really curious, without the Bible, how you know anything about God.
Well, I told you that it's all personal experience. that isn't
Right, but
related
your
to the Bible.
personal
But
experience isn't evidence.
you
For all
don't,
you know,
right, right.
for all you know, you could have just had a psychotic break. You don't know.
And for all we know, I could be right and you could be wrong, or you can be right and I can be wrong. You made a statement when I first come on your live that.
Stop. The difference between the two of us is that I'm not making claims to the positive. You are.
I try to keep a positive outlook because what
No,
else
that's
is
not what I'm
left
talking
in
about.
this
I'm talking about
negative world?
positivity. I'm not talking about positivity. I'm talking
Oh, I'm
about
sorry.
you making a claim about the nature of reality. I am not making any claims about the nature of reality. So I do not have a burden of proof. You are making claims about the nature of reality. The burden of proof falls on you. You are saying absolutely there is a God. You need to provide evidence for that claim.
Right. Which we also could say people who believe there could be a God, but there's no evidence, have to prove there's no evidence. Because how do we know there's no evidence? We have not studied every cultural belief. We have not been everywhere in the world.
We have not currently discovered anything that would point us to a God. And until we do, the position we should all take is atheism, which is neutrality.
To our knowledge, to mine and your knowledge. We have not experienced everything,
and
is
I
what
need
I'm
you to
saying.
fucking hear me. What grade did you graduate from? I'm asking you genuinely, seriously.
I went to college, sir.
Which college?
Doesn't matter, sir. Why does that matter? Now you have a problem with my college. I didn't come on here to argue with you, sir. I'm on my own personal journey. I'm having questions.
I don't care about your personal journey.
If you're
Sorry, Ethan. How hard? It's very simple. Like, it's a very simple concept. This is a very simple math equation, essentially. Very, very, very simple logic. You make a claim about the nature of reality. You are required to provide evidence for that. If you cannot provide evidence for that, then you shouldn't be making the fucking claim. You should say, well, it's possible, but I'm going to reserve judgment until I have evidence.
Yeah, it's like somebody that says, I have a T-Rex in my backyard. It's not up to the person that doesn't believe the T-Rex is there. It's up to the person that has that T-Rex in the backyard to show the evidence they have the T-Rex.
Yep.
Just like Gnostic or agnostic just means without knowledge. Gnostic means with knowledge. That's your knowledge claim. So you have no knowledge of a God, you have knowledge of a God, Gnostic. And then you have your atheism and then your theism. Atheism means lack of belief in their God or gods. Theism means you have a belief in gods. So that's, for the people in the chat, that's how that plays out. Yeah, but D-Beck, you were, I don't think you egging him on. You were pushing a lot of buttons. You were basically
why I can't address this conversation without anger. When she's wishy-washy on her beliefs. She's got this personal fucking experience that only applies to her and nobody else. What the fuck am I supposed to even do with that? Like, how am I supposed to have a conversation about your personal fucking experience? It's completely irrelevant to literally 8 other billion people on the planet. I can't have a conversation with that.
Yeah, they've all been choosing to do that. They have personal beliefs in their God. Yeah, they've all been doing that. They have a personal belief in God. So me, because I'm kind of me sometimes, so I'll troll. And I'm like, do you go bowling with your God? What's his personal best?
Apparently, she has conversations with her God.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to disagree with that. I'm gonna have to say that's probably her own her own inner dialogue, because some people actually have their own inner dialogue. I didn't realize it wasn't that as common as what you thought that was. It's actually not that common.
When she started the conversation, it was that she had initially heard God out loud, and then it went from there to being something that was inside of her head. And now she's saying she doesn't have conversation. Well, make up your fucking mind. Either God is talking to you or he isn't.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say it's probably mostly her inner dialogue.
Well, and I get angry
That's
at
probably
this conversation because it should fucking matter, right? If there's a God that wants us to know him, then that God should be apparent to everybody, not just one person. No, I'm not going to calm down and let you explain. I don't want to hear about your personal fucking experience anymore. I'm over it. I'm going to say this one more time and then I'm dropping the subject. Your personal experience is not ever going to be evidence of a God, and it will not, absolutely not convince people. So,
and then for D-Beck, this is what I do. How I believe when you're dead is your body produces a lot of chemicals, like from your pineal gland. You get your serotonin, your melatonin, your DMT, your MDMA-05. You get your cannabinoids and another one, and it all dumps down right when you're about to go, is because it gives you a hallucination, so you don't feel as much pain. So in that hallucination is where you'll dream forever, but even though you'll be physically dead. If that gives you any solace, you'll be dead, like Ethan said, done, gonzo. But for that split second, you'll be trapped in that dream forever, because that is the last thing that you'll remember.
all right. Okay. So, really quick, while we have a break between debates, above my head is my Venmo and my Cash App. I also have PayPal. I am never going to charge for this content. I'm not going to put up a paywall. I'm not going to set up nothing. I'm not going to require payment for my fucking content. I'm going to put this shit out regardless. But if you feel like it's worth a few bucks, I would appreciate the help. I'm obviously, like a lot of people, struggling right now. And so the help is helpful. If I could just get my nose to stop itching. Fuck.
Guys, go easy on D-Beck. She probably comes from like the Bible Belt, so even her college was more Christian-driven area, probably. I'm gonna suppose.
Well, she claims she's not a Christian, so she just believes in the God. I don't know what that means.
Well, God, creator. Normally, whenever they say just the God, it's the Christian God.
Yeah, normally.
Yeah, she probably did likely go to a Christian college. She just doesn't really follow the Bible the way the Bible is, so then she has like her own faith in it. You would probably say.
Be right back.
Well, if she just admitted that she didn't go to college, then why would she lie? I don't know what kind of relationship with her God, but I know most gods don't really like you when you lie to their God or lie about it. Technically, eating the maraschino cherries.
Yep.
Not bad. Well, no, there's just so many people writing at the same time in chat that it's hard to keep the chat flowing properly. You can drop me anytime if you have another guest, Ethan.
Adam, feel free to jump back in later if you've got time.
Oh yeah, I'll be kicking around. I have nothing better to do right now.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
See ya.
One more time. No, she's not connecting. Neither is this individual, so we're having connection issues. Yes, these are cherries. I loved maraschino cherries. They're fucking so good. All right, we're back in with the guest requests.
I just want to reiterate again, I never came on your live to convince anyone of or not of a God. I came
then why'd you come
asking
on live?
I came to see, I want to know your knowledge. I want to know what you have learned. I go around, I collect knowledge,
In my
and
20
that's all
years
I
of being,
do.
hold on, in my
You
20
always
years of
cut
being,
me off. Can
stop.
I at least finish a sentence? Please, I
I'm
give
giving
you
you the answer.
respect. You
I'm
do this
giving you.
every time. I
I'm
wasn't
giving you the answer
finished.
to your fucking question.
Oh my God. You always cut people off and don't let them finish the sentence.
Aww.
I
You're
don't
feeling
care if
hurt?
you cry. No, it's not. I'm used to this.
All
I'm
right, so
used to
then
people
give me a
going
second
around
to answer your
saying how
question, and I'll
bad the
let you
world
fucking
is,
talk.
but they participate in how bad it is.
Give me a second to answer your fucking question, and I'll let you talk.
I wasn't really asking a question. I was just making a statement that you're turning this around like I'd come on here to debate you, like I'm trying to debate this and that. I didn't come
What
to
the fuck
debate.
does this say? Discuss
Discuss.
beliefs.
That's not
That's
debate.
gonna be a debate.
Okay, well, if you want to call it a debate, if you're debating, that's fine. I'm not debating. I'm not here to prove anything to anyone. As I
So
said,
then
I
why are
believe
you
it's
here?
everyone's own experience. I came on to ask you what you believed. I came on to ask you your experiences. I didn't come to prove you wrong. If you want to prove me wrong, that's fine. But everyone in the comments, and then you're going offline and you're getting angry at me, and you're assuming I'm trying to change your belief system.
No,
And
I'm
that is
not.
not what I'm trying to do. Then why are you so angry?
Don't put into my mouth words I didn't say.
Okay, then why are you so angry at me? You said you don't know what to do with me. You don't have to do anything with me.
Because
You don't have
having
to
a
believe
conversation with
anything
you
I'm
is like
saying.
nailing mud to a wall. It just falls down and doesn't stay. There's nothing
Why? Because
structured
I'm
about
asking
your
a
fucking
question.
beliefs.
I didn't come, but see, that's the whole point I just said. I didn't come to talk about my belief. I come to ask you about yours. And you keep turning it back to me on my belief.
My beliefs are
I didn't come
simple.
here to
For
convince you.
20 years, I have been an atheist. And in that 20 years, I have never once, ever seen a shred of evidence or credibility to any God claim ever fucking made. And by and large, those claims damage people's lives.
Yeah. So are you afraid I'm going to damage your life if I claim I've heard?
No,
And let me
I'm
say,
afraid
and
that
something was
I'm not afraid of anything. I'm worried, honestly, that the spread of misinformation based on your personal beliefs will harm somebody. Yeah.
okay.
Believing in untrue things leads to ignorance and causes harm.
Okay. Let me clear up a couple of things because when I was trying to type in the chat, it left out. I did not lie about going to college. I was trying to say I did not go to a Christian college, but the Christian did not come out. I did go to college, but I don't want people to think that I believe in what I believe because I went to a Christian college.
No,
Two,
I'm convinced.
no, it wasn't you. It was the
I'm
other guy you
convinced that
had
you
on
believe what you
before.
believe for. I'm convinced that you believe what you believe for bad reasons.
Right. Then also, I made the statement that I heard his voice, and then you all said that. Then I said, no, I don't talk to him anymore. Meaning that once I heard his voice audibly once, then now it's an inward thing. Haven't heard his audible voice since then, except maybe in a night vision. But those are things that you guys don't believe in, and those are things, that's why there's no need to talk about that. But I just, everybody's making it out like I don't know what I'm saying or I'm lying. But when you're debating, it's hard.
I'm concerned for your mental health because people don't have a habit of hearing voices.
But I only heard it one time. Mental health people hear those voices all the time.
Well, you heard it one time and you decided to base your entire belief system off that one time?
No, it was an ongoing experience, but I said I heard an actual voice one time.
And
not
what
a
is
one-time experience. It's been 7 years of just all kinds of experience. I've had a spiritual baptism that's described in the Bible that the church never described to me, never explained to me.
So then
I've had to learn everything I said I had a spiritual baptism that the church, when I was younger, never explained to me. I never had anything really in the church system explained to me the correct way. So basically, I've had to do everything on my own, learn everything through my experiences. That's all I have. That's all I've ever had. And I'm now trying to put logic with my experiences. And so I seek out information and other people's opinion, read books, do the same thing everybody's doing, trying to just make sense of what
Nothing about what you
my
believe
experiences.
is logical.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, my grandson's in the background.
That's fine.
But I don't want to leave this live.
I'm making the point that your beliefs are not logical. Nothing about how you've addressed these things is even remotely logical.
Okay, and I respect your opinion, and that's why I'm trying to get your opinion. You can't make a fact if you wasn't present. If you didn't experience
there's a certain way we go about understanding the nature of reality. You aren't on that path at all.
Well, what is the right path of understanding the nature of reality?
Go ahead and use Google and search the scientific method.
You believe everything you read on Google?
Oh my God, seriously? It's the scientific fucking method. It's the same everywhere in every country and every culture.
I'm not a lazy person. Like I heard you earlier talking about people need to do their research before they come on here, and I agree with that. But I think if we have a belief system, as you have, and I have, we all have our own beliefs, we ought to be able to explain those without having telling people to go and look it up themselves.
I don't.
Okay, well, anyway, I just wanted to come back on and say I didn't come to try to make you angry. I actually have respect for you. I don't have anything against you. I'm enjoying your live, and I'm just trying to gain more knowledge. And I'm not trying to push any belief off on anyone. As I said, everyone's free. That's the point of freedom. We're free to believe what we want to believe. But I think we should respect other people while we do that. I think that's the whole point of the whole live, isn't it? To respect
I have every
humans.
intention of respecting people's autonomy and who they are as a person. I am under no obligation to respect a person's beliefs.
No, I didn't say respect a person's beliefs. I said respect a person. Be respectable. Never said respect my belief. I don't want you to respect. I'm not here to, as I've said 4 times, I'm not here for you to respect my belief. I was here just to gain more knowledge from you. But you got very angry because I think you think I'm trying to get you to respect my belief, and I'm not.
No,
you asked me a question, and I gave you an answer.
Stop putting your experience in my mouth.
Well, sir, the reason my experience was brought up is because you asked me in the very first time I come on why I believed. And I was just telling you why I believed.
There's 2 main points to my life. The discussion is what you believe and why you believe it. The other part of the discussion is keeping religion and personal beliefs out of our public policies.
I agree with that. I think there should be a separation. But I don't really do politics because the government's corrupt in my opinion. And
the government wouldn't be corrupt if
if
Americans would actually grow a pair.
Right. And I heard you say that Christians need to stand up and do what they need to do, and I agree with that, but it's not just Christians. I mean, everyone, the whole world needs to stand up. Christians isn't going to fix the problem. Everyone. That's why I try to say we shouldn't look at everything as a religious issue. It's just an issue.
No. Right now in the United States, the issue is religion.
Because they're not standing up.
The metric that is diminishing your public education is religion. The metric that is diminishing your ability to pay your bills is religion. The metric that is fucking everything up right now, from our issue with race to gender to sexuality to everything in the United States right now, is being fucked by evangelical Christians. This is almost an entirely religious issue, and regular Christians are not standing up and telling these evangelicals to stop.
Right. Do you feel that Christians are making the policies behind closed doors
Yes.
in our government system? But though, even though our government seems very in my opinion, I feel like our government's so atheist, in my opinion. But do you
Really?
think, I guess, maybe behind closed doors, they are really
official do
influenced?
you know of as an atheist?
Well, I guess I don't know what word to call it. I don't feel like everyone in the White House believes in God.
They do.
If they
Biden's a
did, they
fucking
would
Catholic.
be. If they believed
Biden-
in God, they would be passing policies to end hunger, to end war.
No, they wouldn't.
These
That's
people
my
in
point.
the White House love war. They love conflict.
Stop. First off, both sides like conflict because both sides are invested in business, and nothing is more profitable than war outside of medicine and death. But Biden's a fucking Catholic.
Well, when I say White House, I'm not
there's like-
necessarily just
there's
talking about the
one-
president.
One atheist in all of our politics that I'm aware of. And I think he's like in Maryland or some shit. I don't even know. Our politics is entirely Christian. Almost every single one of our politicians identifies as Christian.
They identify. That's the key word.
I don't give a
to
shit.
gain votes.
So what?
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's why I don't believe they're really God-believing or God-fearing people as they claim.
fearing God.
That's why I'm saying if they
Fearing-
were, I think
fearing
they
God
were.
does not make people morally superior.
That's still not the point. You've read the Bible. I've read the Bible. It's either you're either in or you're out.
Wonderful things, but no, that's not what Christianity inspires in people. Not even a little bit. Christianity doesn't inspire charity. It never has.
It's supposed to. It's
No, it
supposed
fucking
to, though.
doesn't.
That's the
And
problem.
No, and no. Never.
No.
Never.
It's
in the history
You've
of
never
that
read
religion
that in
has
the
it
Bible?
ever. Yes, 3 times. And never in that church, in that religion's history, has it ever inspired to charity.
Right. It hasn't done what it's supposed to do. That's what I'm agreeing. But it's
No, it
supposed
doesn't.
to do that.
It's done exactly. It's done exactly as it was designed to do. Control the masses, cause fear.
Here, Cam. Okay. Well, it's been a good morning. But anyway, I just don't want to leave on no bad note. I enjoy your lives and hope you'll have me back. And just know I'm not trying to change your personal beliefs, or I'm not, angry. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I believe everyone has the freedom to do it, to believe and follow after their own path. That's just what I believe.
I would prefer they keep it to themselves at the end of the day, but hey, yeah, I agree.
But when you come on alive and God gets brought up, then you're inviting in different opinions.
Yeah, here is one thing, because I'm obviously inviting it.
Right.
The next time I go to a pride parade and see a Christian standing on a soapbox telling everybody they're going to hell.
Yeah, that's a different subject. Right. I agree. I agree with that also.
Or the next time we have a satanic temple convention in Scottsdale, and then we have to deal with Christians outside telling everybody that the satanic temple is just pure evil. none of them having actually researched or read about or even trying to understand what the Satanic Temple is or why it exists.
All right. There's a lot
Christians
of
don't
lies
give a
on
fuck
here.
about knowledge. Christians only give a fuck about what they believe.
Well, I give a big F about knowledge. I think it's very important, and that's all. That is kind of the journey I'm on. I'm just
Well,
seeking
then my
knowledge.
personal,
So
my very best advice to you is think twice about your personal experiences. Take into consideration that it could be a mental issue and not just assume that it's something supernatural, because that's not logical.
yeah. Well, I done that for about 2 years. Stay very quiet, just waiting, and
That's not what I'm
you know,
talking about.
I didn't just
I'm not talking
I
about
didn't just
staying
jump right
quiet.
up.
I'm not talking about avoiding the experiences you're having. I'm talking about seeking therapy and talking to somebody about it.
I just
How
yeah.
do you know it's not a mental health issue if you haven't talked to a mental health professional?
That is very true, and I will give you that. But I don't want to go away here with, if there were be anyone in here listening today thinking that because they've had an experience, that means they may actually have a mental health issue.
Why?
I mean, I don't. So, how many Christians is it in the world? Do you think every one of them had a mental health
Let's say there's
breakdown
a
to become
Christian, right? Let's
Christian?
say
I
there's a
don't.
Christian. Hold on. Thought experiment. Let's say there's a Christian right now that has God in his head telling him to kill people. What should he do? Kill people?
No, obviously not. And obviously, if anything is in your head telling you to do something bad to another person, it's not
Well,
good.
why? How do you know he's not being divinely inspired by the Lord?
And you know
Right?
what? If he says he is. I can't judge those things. I don't know what's in
I
someone
can.
else's head. That's why I don't even try to get into someone else's head.
I can absolutely judge that fucking bullshit. 100% I'm going to.
But the only thing that's conflicting for me in this live, my phone may die. It's on 1%. Is that there's Christians in the world who are saying they don't stand up, they don't do this, they don't do that. But yet I say that I have an experience, so that excludes me from God just because I had an experience. So what? Christians can be Christians if they don't experience God. It's just a belief system. But if you have an experience, then you're insane. Like, you're confusing me on why we can have a world full of Christians, but
I did not say you were insane.
Is it? Okay, sorry. I need to seek help. Is it because I heard the voice? Is that why you worried that I may need to seek help?
Seek information. Seek knowledge. You're not doing that.
Earlier you had said see a professional, so I didn't know which one you meant.
Stop fucking talking. If you're avoiding this entire other possibility, then you are not being intellectually honest.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. The other possibility that I may just be hearing things, that I need to see a doctor.
Talk to a therapist and find out.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. My phone's about to die. Have a good day.
Have a good weekend.
Learning about the truth is about considering multiple sources of information. It's not about just making assumptions about what you think you know.
It
Honestly,
usually is.
I just want to say that you're amazing and I agree with everything you are about, honestly.
Appreciate your support. Thank you.
Like, I'm sorry, but that woman before you, she put logic and religion in the same sentence, and I about screamed at my fucking phone. Sorry for the.
No, it's all right, because people who have sincerely held beliefs very, very commonly do not add actual logic to the equation. If they did, they wouldn't believe the shit they believe.
No, okay, so when I was a little girl, I did the whole like belief thing, like blah 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 bullshit. And then And then I fucking, you know, saw that it was all bullshit, and I became pagan. So
Well, I'll give you as much shit as I'll give anybody else until you start slaughtering babies, other humans, and animals to the gods as a sacrifice. Pagans are just as full of shit as anybody else when it comes to religious beliefs.
that's true.
Original
That's
pagans
true.
were brutal. There's a reason why Christianity
They
became
were.
the norm.
Oh
So
yeah.
originally you had tribes of people who, for resources, warred with each other. And then gods came into play with it. My God's dick is bigger than your God's dick, kind of shit.
Pretty much. Yep.
Christianity was the inevitable outcome of those wars. You know, we always try to simplify our systems over time. We had a system with multiple gods and multiple tribes. By narrowing down that system, we ended up with Christianity, a single God, monotheistic religion that reduced the number of overall wars that were taking place. Still, you know, Christianity has enough its own fair share of bloodshed on its hands. But pagans, by and large, I don't know of a pagan system of thought. I mean, I haven't really studied a lot of the ancient pagan religions, but almost all of them involved some type of brutal murder of other people.
Yeah. That's true.
And I see pagans today, and what I gather is they're just in the middle of their deconstruction. They may have started out Christian or some other religion, and they decided that they didn't want to buy into that because obvious reasons. Christianity is largely bigoted and, you know, sexist and homophobic and all kinds of other shit. So
Yeah.
people behind, they just decided to leave that religion behind, but they couldn't let go of the God beliefs, so they just gave it a different label, paganism. And, you know, as they deconstruct over time, you'll end up in spiritualism, and then eventually you'll just be an atheist.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Most of the
You're right.
deconstruction stories I've heard in my life went that way. I was a Christian, but then I got into paganism or Wicca, and then I got into spiritualism, and then I was just an atheist. I actually went down that road.
I don't know.
I mean, well, I
Maybe
mean,
I'm just
if you want to have the conversation about beliefs, what logic is there in believing in pagan gods?
I don't know. That is a really good question.
Typically is. Thing about me, Matt Dillahunty said it best, and so I've kind of stolen this from him, but I want to know as many true things about the nature of reality as possible and as few false things as possible. That's my goal in life. Never to presuppose or assume anything.
Yeah.
Either I don't know or I have evidence, one way or the other. Truth matters, knowledge matters. Our species only gets better with the more that we learn about the nature of ourselves, the nature of reality, how to properly coexist and get along. We only get better with that over time as we learn more.
Very true.
We are less racist today than we were 30 years ago. 30 years ago, when I was a kid, there was no mixed race couples on television. That shit didn't happen. There was no LGBTQ TV or gay
No.
couples on TV 30 years ago. That didn't exist. It wasn't a thing.
That was
Wasn't even a trend in the
considered
public eye.
bad. That was considered bad.
One of my favorite television shows growing up as a kid was MASH. There was Spear Chucker, one black main character in that series. I think his name was Spear Chucker. And he had a relationship with a nurse who was also black. They did not do mixed race couples on television 30 years ago. But we've gotten
so
better
crazy.
over time with that. We see it in television Almost every show now has some type of mixed
Mm-hmm.
race couple or some type of LGBTQ couple, and I think it's a beautiful and amazing thing.
I think so too. I agree.
Knowledge is our absolute best ability. That's the best thing human beings have going for us. Learning about the nature of reality makes us better.
Yeah. Well, I must take my dogs out, but
Thank you so much for
thank you
jumping in. I
for,
appreciate you. I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
yeah, you too.
Bye.
We're going to restart the live here in a minute, but we're going to talk, I think, with Adam really quick.
That you don't believe that the Christians or politicians are Christian or not real Christians, you realize that you committed an illogical fallacy called the no true Scotsman fallacy, which
Yeah.
you cannot sit there and say that.
I think her position wasn't that they weren't true Christians. It was more that they were pretending to be Christian to get the vote, which I think is partially true. I think there are politicians out there who either are nominally Christian or barely Christian or maybe not even Christian at all, but they claim it because it gets them votes.
Yeah, some of them kind of do. But again, like she contradicted herself. She's like, it's all about personal journey and a relationship with God, but then turns around and then tries to call them out for but saying that you can have your own beliefs with God. So at the same time, she contradicts herself when she was talking,
Yeah,
which
it's
really
pretty
frustrating.
obvious. I mean, that's kind of the way it goes, but
Like Trump, as an atheist perspective, I think Trump really weaponized religion and used it to his platform to spill his hate-filled ideologies. Because you look at Trump and you look at who his dad was. His dad was a member of the KKK.
Yeah, Trump is a very terrible person.
Yeah, and then he weaponized
Adam.
Go ahead.
Oh, I appreciate you, Adam. I was gonna restart the live, so
yeah, go ahead.
All right, man. Thanks for jumping in again, and we're gonna restart the live.
Come back in. Go ahead and come back in. We're going to restart this live. Ready? 3, 2, 1, restart.